This audiobook is distributed by Christian Audio. Please visit christianaudio.com to offer your impressions of this work and to explore additional titles.
Crossway Audio, a division of Good News Publishers, presents This Present Darkness by Frankie Peretti, read by the author.
The college town of Ashton had always been a simple, unassuming sort of place, never regarded as a locale for distressing occurrences or jarring changes, until one perilous summer when spirits good and evil gathered, and long-hidden, long-brewing spiritual violence suddenly erupted from the realm of the invisible into the realm of people and events. When Marshall Hogan, editor of the Ashton Clarion, sent Bernice Kruger, his reporter, to cover the Ashton Summer Festival, he never expected she would end up in jail on false charges after taking photographs of 5 people who did not want to be seen, much less photographed together. A local minister, a college professor, and the chief of police meeting secretly behind a carnival booth with 2 out-of-town strangers. When Marshall bailed her out the next day, she was furious, but also suspicious, convinced that the arrest was staged in order to seize her camera and destroy her film. She just couldn't say why. Marshall met with the chief of police, Alf Brummel, intent upon getting an explanation and an apology, but Brummel denied knowing anything about the false arrest and insisted he hadn't been at the carnival at all. Marshall was not the kind to accept such a flat contradiction, but strangely, as if Brummel had some mysterious hypnotic power over him, Marshall went away from the meeting believing Brummel, somehow lulled into a stupid complacency and willing to let the whole thing slide. In the meantime, Hank Bush, pastor of the Ashton Community Church, was trying to figure out who'd spray-painted an obscenity on the front of his house. This was only the most recent in a long chain of harassments and attacks he'd been receiving. Factions within his church were working aggressively to drive him out, while unknown enemies were taking every opportunity they could find to smear and intimidate him. Though he and his wife Mary had all kinds of theories, they really didn't know why this was happening to them. Marshall, still dazed by his meeting with Chief of Police Brummel, was ready to dismiss Bernice Kruger's suspicions altogether until he had a chilling confrontation with Professor Julene Langstratt. He'd gone to the college to pick up his daughter Sandy and tried to sit in on Sandy's last class for the day, taught by the beautiful but strangely sinister professor. Immediately, as if by psychic radar, the professor spotted him, seemed to know who he was, and ordered him out of the room. The moment was awkward. Sandy was embarrassed, Marshall was enraged, and after the class dismissed, they had harsh words for each other as the long feud between them broke out again. But this awoke Marshall from his stupor, and he took note of that strange event, especially the diabolical look in the professor's eyes. Maybe Bernice was right. Something suspicious was going on between Alf Brummel, Professor Langstratt, and Marshall's own pastor, Oliver Young. Later that day, 2 large men appeared outside the Ashton Community Church. One was dark and wiry, the other bearded and massive. They were dressed in tan fatigues and carried swords at their sides. "The others are waiting inside," said Driscoll, the wiry one. "Lead on," said Gilo. Quick as a thought, they passed through the walls of the church and found several more large, sword-bearing figures like themselves gathered in the sanctuary. Some sitting in the pews, others standing around the platform, still others acting as sentries, looking cautiously out the windows. "Welcome, Gilo, the strength of many." The greeting came from none other than Tal, the captain of the host of the Lord. It was strange to see such a mighty warrior, tall and glorious, with golden hair, ruddy complexion, and fiery golden eyes, standing in this humble place. "Greetings, my captain." Tal's expression was grim. "It's a serious business that brings us together, old friend." Gilo had already read that fact in the faces around him. 23 warriors? The very best, gathered now as though under siege, cowering in a flimsy fortress from a dreaded enemy? With a dramatic flair, he drew his sword and cradled the blade in his free hand. "Captain Tal, who is this enemy?" "Rafar, the Prince of Babylon." I know you speak the truth, but would such as Rafar come to this place? He is a prince of nations, not mere hamlets. What is this place? What interest could he possibly have in it? "We don't know, but something's in the making, and the Lord God wants us here to confront whatever it is." "Confront it, Captain? But Driscoll has told me that we are not to fight, we are not to resist, and this by your order." "There can be no confrontations, not yet. We're too few, and the saints are not yet praying." Just then a lawnmower roared by outside. Tal guided their attention to the young man pushing it. "This is Hank Bush, pastor of the church. Hearing his prayers, the Lord called us here. Hank Bush is a man of prayer, something the enemy fears. He's one of the last." "If not the last," lamented the warrior. "No, Creone, he's not alone. There's still a remnant of believers in this town. There's always a remnant. Driscoll, I'll hear news of Marshal Hogan. I've been following him closely. Right now he's being hounded by a demon of complacency and despair. Could be he's beginning to stir. They're trying to hold him back. I expect Rafar to take power here by nightfall. No doubt he'll immediately search out his greatest obstacle and try to remove it." "Ah," said Gilo. "These two men, Marshal Hogan and Hank Bush. Creone, Driscoll, select 4 warriors and watch over Hank. Don't let his life be touched, but aside from that, prevent nothing. He must be tested. As for Marshal Hogan, Rafar will give his demons incredible license with him, and he could collapse or, as we all hope, fight back. Gilo, select some warriors. We'll watch care over him tonight and see how he responds. The rest of you, seek out the remnant." Tal drew his sword and held it high. The others did the same, and a forest of shining blades appeared. "For the saints of God, and for the Lamb!" And every warrior echoed, "For the saints of God, and for the Lamb!" Complacency, an impish little demon, unfurled his wings and drifted into Stewart Hall on the Whitmore College campus, sinking down through the main floor to the gloomy basement where the other spirits had gathered, where many pairs of yellow cat eyes glared at him and grotesque apparitions carried on their hushed, gargling conversations. Complacency sought out Lucius, the Prince of Ashton, an imposing demon who held the highest position of all. "My prince, I must have a word with you." Lucius' eyes narrowed. "Why aren't you with Hogan?" "I must speak with you. You're making a mistake. You're stalking Hogan's daughter, and..." Lucius gave Complacency a blow that sent him tumbling across the room. "You dare to accuse your prince of a mistake? You know your duty. Perform it!" I was. Hogan was nothing to fear at all. A slug, a lump of clay. I could have held him forever. "So do it!" "Prince Lucius, please hear me. Give him no enemy, no need to fight. Withdraw from his daughter." Lucius sneered at him. "Shall we send someone else to hold Hogan in check?" Complacency had no answer, but added another note of concern. "I saw messengers of the living God today." That only brought laughter from the group. "Are you becoming that timid, Complacency?" Lucius kicked him. "We control this town, and we roam it freely, without fear of attack. You listless, limp little bungler! To fear is to fail!" Then it happened. Suddenly, a violent, boiling cloud of evil thundered into the room, sweeping the demons along like so much debris in a raging tide, tumbling, screaming, wrapping their wings tightly around themselves in terror. All except for Lucius. Out of that cloud, a monstrous spirit had appeared and now held Lucius by the throat, shaking him like a rag doll. A voice gargled up from deep within the spirit's torso and sprayed out in clouds of fiery red vapor.
You who have no fear, are you now afraid?
It hurled Lucius across the room to join the others, then stood there like a mountain, wielding a deadly S-curved sword, its bared fangs glistening, its leathery wings filling the room. For an eternity it studied them with sinister, smoldering eyes.
Lucius, you will announce me on your feet.
Lucius' voice quivered despite every effort.
Baal, Rafar, the Prince of Babylon.
They all leaped to their feet, partly out of respect, mostly out of fear of Rafar's sword.
Lucius, you will stand with the others. I am here, and only one prince is needed.
But Lucius became indignant.
You have not asked me to yield my place.
Rafar's sword flashed. Lucius screamed in pain and coiled into a twisted knot on the floor. Rafar leaned over him.
Do you wish to challenge me for my position? Answer!
No, I yield.
Get up!
Lucius struggled to his feet and Rafar stood him with the others.
Listen well, all of you. Lucius is a liar and a worm and is not to be heeded. I say to you, fear the hosts of heaven, as they are ignored, as they are given place, so they shall overcome you. Tell me, deposed prince, how stands the town of Ashton? Is it ready?
Yes, Baal Rafar.
Oh, then you have taken care of this praying bush and this sleeping troublemaker, Hogan.
Lucius was silent.
You have not. First, you allow them to come into places we reserved for our own special appointments.
It was a mistake, Baal Rafar. The Clarion editor was eliminated according to our orders. But no one knows where this Hogan came from. He bought the paper before anything could be done.
And Bush?
He sprang up from nowhere to be the pastor of the Ashton Community Church. He was not our choice at all. A long, foul sigh hissed out through Rafar's fangs.
The host of heaven. While you have taken them for granted, they have moved in the enemy's chosen, right under your noses. It is no secret that Henry Bush is a man who prays. Do you fear that?
Yes, of course. More than anything, we've been attacking him, trying to drive him out.
And how has he responded?
He
Speak up!
He prays. Rafar shook his head.
And what about Hogan?
We've attacked his daughter.
His daughter?
Complacency couldn't contain himself. I tried to tell him it wouldn't work. It would only make Hogan more aggressive and wake him from his lethargy. Lucius blurted, sometimes a direct attack is not wise, so we found a weakness in his daughter and felt we could divert his energies toward her, perhaps destroy him at home and disintegrate his family. It was at least a start. It will fail, Complacency cried. He was harmless until they tampered with his sense of well-being and comfort. Now I fear I won't be able to hold him back. He's gonna...
I do not want Hogan held back. I want him destroyed. Yes, take his daughter. Take anything that can be corrupted. As for this man of God who has sprung up, I'm sure an adequate trap can be laid. But concerning the host of heaven, how strong are they?
Not strong at all, Lucius answered boldly.
But cunning enough to make you think they are weak. A fatal mistake, Lucius.
He addressed all of them.
No longer take the enemy for granted. Watch him. Count his numbers. Know his whereabouts, his skill, his name. Our Lord has very important plans for this town. He has sent me to fulfill them. And that is enough to draw the very hordes of heaven down upon our heads. Be fearful of that. And as for these 2 thorns in our hoof, the newspaper man and the man of God, tonight we will see what they are made of.
The night was black, and the driving rain played a constant drum roll on the windows of Hank Bush's little house. Though Mary was asleep, Hank remained wide awake, troubled by the attacks from his own board members, the obscene slogan someone spray-painted on his house, and now the strange gnawing unrest he felt in his spirit that simply would not go away. The last time Hank looked at the alarm clock, it was 12:20. After that, he didn't know when. He dozed off. And then the nightmares began. Bizarre images rioting through his head. Screams, falling, the sight and taste of blood. You're having a nightmare, he told himself. He looked around the room but saw nothing out of the ordinary. But he was still scared. He was shaking. Even the silence was sinister. What was that? A creaking noise. Footsteps? No, he told himself, just the wind against the windows. Another noise, this time a quiet rustling. Come on, Hart, quiet down so I can hear. Marshall had the same kind of dreams, and now he awoke to the same heart-pounding fear. Voices. It sounded like voices somewhere. Sandy? Maybe a radio. Yeah, but who knows, he thought to himself. He went to the closet for a baseball bat, then peered up and down the hallway. No lights on, no flashlight beams playing about. But his guts were doing a square dance under his ribs, and there had to be a reason. He gripped the bat tightly and moved down the hall, staying close to the wall. He checked Sandy's room. Her bed had been slept in, but now the covers were thrown back. The room was in disarray. She was gone. He moved into the living room and suddenly felt he was sharing a dark closet with several hundred vipers. Hogan, either you've lost a screw or you're in big, big trouble. There had to be somebody or something in the house. He couldn't hear it or see it, but he knew it was there. Outside the house, Tal and his company watched as at least 40 demons played havoc with Marshall's mind and spirit. They swooped like deadly black swallows in and out of the house, around and around Marshall, screaming taunts and blasphemies, playing on his fears. Hilo's sword slipped with a metallic ring from its sheath, but Tal's strong arm held him back. Please, Captain, never before have I only watched this happen. Bridle yourself, dear warrior. I will strike them only once. Forbear, forbear. He must go through it. Hank had the lights on in his house, but the rooms still seemed oppressively dark, the shadows deep. He could feel a wind moving through the house like hot, sticky breathing. His first step into the living room was like falling into a black well of terror. The hairs on his neck bristled. His lips spilled out a frantic prayer. He went down, his body slamming into the floor. Like a trapped animal, he struggled under an unseen, crushing weight, his arms and legs smacking into furniture, knocking things over. In Jesus' name, let me go! The crushing weight lifted. Hank filled his lungs with air. The struggle was over, but the terror was still there, the black, sinister presence. He sat up halfway and spoke clearly. In the name of Jesus of Nazareth, I command you to get out of this house. Mary awoke with a start. She could hear a multitude screaming in anguish, at first deafening, then fading into the unseen distance. Hank! Marshall roared and raised the bat to strike down his attacker. The attacker screamed also out of stark terror. It was Kate. They had backed into each other in the dark hallway. Marshall, what on earth are you doing out here? Marshall withered like a punctured inner tube. What are you trying to do? Get yourself killed? Is someone in the house? No, I looked, but I thought you were talking to someone. Do I look like I've been having a friendly chat with somebody? Marshall, I heard voices. You heard ghosts. She squeezed his arm so tightly it hurt. Don't talk like that. Sandy's gone. What do you mean, gone? Gone where? She's gone. Her room's empty. She's not in the house. Kate hurried down the hall and looked in her room. Some of her clothes are gone. Her school books, too. Marshall, she's left home. Marshall, what is it? I'm scared. I'm really scared. And I don't know why. As Creone, Triskel, and the others watched from their hiding place outside Hank's home, flocks of demons came thundering and fluttering out of the house like bats, screaming, indignant, stopping their ears. Well, said Triskel, this little pastor is more than he appears. Mary found Hank lying on the floor, exhausted and bruised. He was shaken, but victorious, frightened, but much wiser. He'd been through his first battle. He and Mary would not be sleeping much the rest of the night. Instead, they would be praying. Tuesday morning, Hank walked through the town, praying for it. The spiritual battle of the previous night had only strengthened his resolve to remain in Ashton as pastor of that struggling church. Meanwhile, within the imposing stone walls of the Ashton United Christian Church, Marshall was having a conference with his own pastor, the elusive, extremely subtle Oliver Young. They'd met to discuss Marshall's rebellious daughter, Sandy, but by now Marshall had other questions on his mind. Bernice Kruger had developed the film from her camera, and her hunch was right. While she'd been in jail, the film in her camera had been tampered with. The pictures she'd taken at the carnival ruined. Marshall wanted to know once and for all what Oliver Young and Police Chief Alf Brummel were up to, and how they were connected with the woman Bernice saw them with, the beautiful but sinister college professor named Julian Langstratt. Young kept smiling even though his face got red. Marshall, I was nowhere near the carnival. I abhor that kind of place. You weren't there with Alf Brummel and Professor Langstratt? I don't even know those people. Obviously, your reporter was mistaken. But she did take some photographs. Then why don't you bring those photographs next time, and then we can discuss it. The little smile on Young's face hit Marshall like spittle. Alf Brummel was not so cool as he sat with Julian Langstratt in her apartment. I tell you, Hogan's on our scent. He was asking Oliver Young some very delicate questions. Maybe having Kruger arrested was the wrong thing to do. Professor Langstratt remained calm and cunning. But you did get access to her camera and destroyed any proof of our meeting. Oh, come on. I know what I'd think if I got my camera back and the film was ruined. Hogan and Kruger aren't that gullible. Langstratt spoke soothingly, putting her arms around him like the tendrils of a vine. Ah, but they are vulnerable. First to you, and ultimately to me. So why can't we get rid of these people? First we got rid of Ted Harmel, and bingo, in came Hogan. We ran the other pastor out of the church, and wham, in came Bush. Bush is as good as gone. The masters have a plan for him. But what about Hogan? Leave him to me. That afternoon, Marshall and Bernice met in his glassed-in cubicle at the Clarion. Brummel and Young are lying. Well, according to them, you were seeing things. Ha! But I just got another tidbit on Chief Brummel. I had lunch with Sarah, his secretary, today. Guess he's gone for several hours every Tuesday afternoon and never says where, but Sarah knows. Our friend Alf has a girlfriend. Yeah, Julian Langstratt, psychology prof out at the college. How did you know? The blonde woman you saw the night of the carnival, remember? The day after you take pictures of some very unwilling folks at the carnival and then get busted by Brummel's cops. Langstratt's so spring-loaded and wary of reporters that she kicks me out of her lecture when I'm only waiting for my daughter. Add to that the meeting I had this morning with my respected pastor, Oliver Young. He repeatedly denied being anywhere near the carnival, and he also denied knowing Langstrat. But boy, did his ears get red. Which brings us to those two unknowns you saw them with that night. The older pudgy guy and that ghosty black-haired woman. They must be out-of-towners. I've never seen them before. But listen, I know a prof in the psychology department at Whitmore. He must know this Langstrat. Maybe he could give me some inside stuff on her. Marshall couldn't shake off the memory of his encounter with the fiery Julian Langstrat, and he hurt more deeply every time he recalled the professor's weird ideas coming at him through the mouth of his own daughter. Facts, Bernie. No gossip, just facts. But yeah, get 'em. That evening, Sandy came home. A young geology major named Sean Ormsby had found her alone and crying on the Whitmore campus and decided to get involved. He went to Marshall and Kate on her behalf, and with his gentle mediation, the family was reunited. For now, the rift was healed. The following day, while Marshall occupied himself with the next edition of the Clarion, Bernice began gathering information on Julian Langstrat through her contacts at Whitmore College. Soon she had a bundle of material to share with Marshall. Bernie, you're getting to be a lot of trouble, you know that? She took that as a real compliment. Have you seen that list of elective courses Langstrat is teaching? I'm sure Sandy knows all about it. But what in blazes is all this stuff? Introduction to God and Goddess consciousness, the divinity of man, witch, warlock, how do spells and rituals work? You gotta be kidding. And just think, VIPs from all over town are having consulting sessions with Langstrat on a regular basis. Police Chief Brummel, for one. Every Tuesday, like clockwork. But look at this list of names I got. 2 of the college regents, the owner of the college land, the county comptroller, the district judge, and Oliver Young. Respected, revered, influential, community-conscious Oliver Young. Yeah, I thought he had a religion all his own. Religion I don't care about. Lies and cover-ups I do. Well, he lied all right. He told me right to my face he didn't know Langstrat. But what we need now is some corroboration. Well, there's one other person on this list. Ted Harmel, the former editor of the Ashton Clarion and alleged child molester. Hey, come on. You bought the paper from him. You already know each other. No, we don't. I took over the paper through Harmel's lawyer. I never saw the guy. He's some kind of weird hermit now, living up near Windsor and not talking to anybody. Just talk reporter to reporter, editor to editor. I think you could hit it off. Okay, let's have the number. Saturday morning, Marshall made the call. Even though he and Ted Harmel were able to talk shop about the paper, news reporting in general, and each other's careers in particular, the conversation took an ugly turn the moment Marshall mentioned the name of Julian Langstrat. What are you digging for? Well, where's she coming from anyway? Sandy's bringing home some weird ideas. It's mysticism, witchcraft, higher consciousness. But why does she meet with important people on a regular basis? People like Alf Brummel, Dolores Pinkston, the college regent, and Eugene Baylor, the college treasurer. I understand you were pretty close to that situation. No, that's wrong. But didn't you have sessions with her yourself? I can't talk about that. Sure, I understand. No, you don't understand. Now listen to me. I don't know what you found out, but whatever it is, bury it. Forget Langstrat. Forget anything you may have heard about her. Oh, yeah, right. How can I possibly leave it alone now? You have a wife? A daughter? Think about them. Think of yourself. Otherwise, you'll be out on your ear like everybody else. Leave it alone. Ted Harmel hung up. Leave it alone. In a pig's eye. The wise old missionary Edith Duster had convictions about Hank's ministry, and she minced no words as she, Hank, and Mary had lunch together in her little apartment. Henry Bush, your being here is not a mistake. If you weren't supposed to be here, the Lord wouldn't have accomplished the things he has through your ministry. But Edith, I've been a Christian all my life, and I've never come up against anything like this. This kind goeth not out but by prayer and fasting. Pastor, we need to pray. They joined hands as Edith Duster prayed. Lord God, I build now a hedge around this young couple, and I bind the spirits in Jesus' name. Rafar's eyes darted toward the sound and saw two swords fallen from their owners' hands. The two demons, formidable warriors, were confused. They stooped hurriedly to gather up their weapons, bowing, apologizing, begging for pardon. Rafar's foot fell on one sword. His own huge sword clamped the other down. The two warriors, startled and terrified, backed away. Please pardon my prince. Oh, yes, please pardon. This has never happened before.
Silence, you two.
The two warriors braced themselves for a terrible punishment, but Rafar did not lash out at them. Not yet. He seemed more interested in those fallen swords. He stared at them, his brow furrowed and his big yellow eyes narrowing. He went down on one knee and picked up a sword. In his huge fist, it looked like a toy. He looked at the sword, then at the demon who had dropped it, then off into space, his gnarled face registering a deep, burning hatred.
Tal,
he whispered. Then, like a slowly swelling volcano, he rose to his feet, his anger building until suddenly, with a roar that shook the room and terrified all those present, he exploded and hurled the sword through the basement wall, through the earth around Stewart Hall, through the air, through several other buildings on the college campus, and up into the sky where it tumbled end over end in a long arc of several miles. His initial explosion released, he grabbed the sword's owner and with the order,
go after it,
flung the demon like a spear along the same trajectory. He grabbed up the other sword and flung it at the other demon, who sidestepped just in time to save himself. Then that demon, too, went sailing after his sword. Lucius finally stepped forward and bowed low, much as he hated to do so. We are at your service, Baal Rafar. Can you tell us, who is this Tal?
Who is this Tal? This warrior, this captain of the hosts of heaven, this sneaking, conniving rival of rivals. Who is this Tal?
Just then, the two warriors returned with their swords. He grabbed both of them and held them up by their wings as an exhibit.
On your feet, all of you.
They complied instantly.
Who is this Tal? He is a strategist who can make warriors drop their swords.
With that, he hurled the two into the group, sending them all sprawling.
Who is this Tal? He is a subtle warrior who knows his limitations, who never enters a battle he cannot win, who knows all too well the power of the saints of God, a lesson you could all stand to learn.
Rafar held his sword in a fist that trembled with rage, waving it about to give extra force to his words.
I knew all too well to expect him. Michael would never have sent anyone less to pit against me. Now Hogan is revived and sniffing after our scent. Now Henry Bush is still retained, and the Ashton Community Church remains as a bastion against us. Now warriors are dropping their swords like clumsy fools. And all because of this Tal.
Rafar turned to a slimy-looking demon of lust and asked,
have you laid a trap for Bush?
Oh, yes, Baal Rafar.
He looked at the demon, Strife.
What have you done to destroy Marshal Hogan?
We are destroying his family. He derives great strength from his wife. If that support were ripped away...
Do it. And what about his daughter?
Deception stepped forward.
She is already in our hands.
Sandy Hogan and Sean Ormsby were having lunch together in a peaceful, tree-shaded spot on the college campus. I love the way the universe all fits together, Sean said. Sandy was still forlorn. So what happens when the universe doesn't fit together? Oh, it always fits together. All of us are part of the universe, part of the whole scheme of things. If we don't fit in, we're just out of touch. Boy, I guess so, Sandy muttered. My folks are supposed to be Christians and loving each other and close to God and everything, but all we ever do is argue about who's right and who's wrong. There's no right or wrong. The truth is in all of us, and it's the same thing with God. But I just wish I could find God, for real. Sean looked at her comfortingly and touched her hand. Hey, no problem. We're all a part of him. Huh? Sandy, the whole universe is one essence. Us, the earth, God, everything. So actually, you're God yourself. So you don't have to worry about finding the truth. The truth is already within you. You're a part of it. You're a part of God. Once you realize that, everything else will fall right into place. He smiled and squeezed her hand encouragingly. At the same time, with gentle combing motions of his talons, Deception stood behind Sandy, stroking her red hair and speaking sweet words of comfort to her mind. Right after Marshall's call to Ted Harmel, Bernice's phone nearly jumped off the wall. Marshall didn't ask her. He told her,
"Be at the office tonight at 7. We've got work to do."
In the back room, Marshall and Bernice paged through old issues of the Clarion, trying to find out why Ted Harmel got run out of town. They learned he'd been accused of molesting Marla Jarrett, 12-year-old daughter of Adam Jarrett, one of the college regents. As Marshall and Bernice flipped through papers, they came across an interesting item. Eldon Strawn, the college dean, had called for an audit. He suggested that the college could be millions of dollars in arrears. The college regents, including Treasurer Eugene Baylor, blocked that. Eldon Strawn was fired. Then, by accident, Marshall uncovered a news item dated clear back in January and was surprised to learn that Bernice had a sister at one time. Marshall, you may as well know everything about it. I've never been able to resolve it in my mind, so it might come up again. Bernice tried to remain unemotional and detached as she dug out all the news stories for Marshall to read. Patricia Elizabeth Kruger, age 19, had been found in a dorm room at Whitmore College, naked and dead, her throat slashed. There was no sign of a struggle. There were no witnesses. Ultimately, the authorities ruled her death a suicide. I checked the dorm layout, the room where she died, the roster for the names of every girl living in that building. I talked to all of them. I checked the police reports, the coroner's report. I went through all of Pat's personal effects. I tried to track down Pat's roommate, but she'd left. I still can't remember her name. I only met her once when I was here for a visit. It just doesn't make sense. Marshall put his arm around her shoulders. Listen, you don't have to carry this whole thing by yourself. If I could just be more objective about it. You're doing fine, Bernie. Just hang in there. Under the careful watch of Tal's warriors, the remnant of praying believers continued to gather around Hank Bush, and the little church began to grow. Soon Tal would have the prayer support he needed. A few states away, in a secluded valley rimmed by high mountains, an old ranch had been expanded into a complex of stone and brick buildings which now housed a small dormitory, an expansive office, a dining hall, a maintenance building, a clinic, and several private dwellings. In the spirit realm, the ranch looked like a hive of hideous black insects. Layer upon layer of ruthless demonic warriors hovered in a vast dome of defense around and above it. This was the lair of the Strong Man, a vicious global tyrant intimate with Lucifer himself.
Al-Rafar, the Prince of Babylon,
came the announcement, and monstrous demons all around the Strong Man's throne bowed in respect as Rafar entered the Strong Man's chamber. The Strong Man never wasted words.
Shall we be detained again? The errors of Prince Lucius are being corrected. The new resistance is failing, my lord. Soon the town will be ready. And what of the host of heaven? Limited. Limited? I hear reports of a mighty captain of the host being sent to Ashton. I believe you know him. I believe it is Tal. But I am prepared for him.
The Strong Man's big, velvet-draped eyes burned with fury.
Is it not this Tal who vanquished you at the fall of Babylon?
Rafar knew he must answer.
It is this, Tal. Then the delays have cost us our advantage. You have now been matched strength for strength. My lord, you will see what your servant can do. Bold words, Rafar. But what of the man of God and the newspaper man? They are powerless, my lord, and will soon be removed. Only if Tal is removed, let me see it before you bother me with boasting about it. Until then, we remain confined here. Rafar, I will not wait long. You have your orders. Be gone.
Rafar bowed low, and with an unfurling of his wings, he quietly rose through the house until he was outside. Then, with a burst of rage, he swooped upward, sending unexpected demons tumbling out of the way. Tal. The very name was bitterness on his tongue. The lords of Lucifer would never let him forget that defeat so long ago. Never. Until the day when Rafar redeemed his honor. And indeed he would. It was only a matter of time. Marshall became obsessed with his investigation, and the strain it put on his family was just what Rafar's demons wanted. He began working late, missing dinners and evenings with his family, neglecting Kate, and all at a very crucial time for Sandy. Something was happening to her. She was changing, growing more distant, and Kate suspected that Sean and Professor Langstrat had a lot to do with it. Former college dean Eldon Strawn agreed to meet with Marshall and Bernice at his small farm an hour away from Ashton. Marshall consulted his notes. What about the college funds? Just what is the problem as you see it? Bankruptcy. Funds going out in all directions for years, but none coming in, and all of it juggled, covered up. I talked to Eugene Baylor, the secretary-treasurer, but he wouldn't give me any straight answers. That's when I asked an accountant friend of mine to snoop around the accounting office and find out what was going on. He did. Bernice asked, "Can we have his name?" "Ernie Johnson. I'm afraid he's dead." "Well, what about records? Did he leave anything written down?" "If he did, those records are lost. Why do you think I've remained silent?" All right. So just how does our kind Professor Langstrat fit into all this?" "She's a guiding force behind it all, but she doesn't hold the ultimate power. Someone else higher up is controlling her." "But you've no idea who?" "No. She has a weird, mysterious background, a lot of occult interests and involvements. I was surprised to see our student body taking such deep interest in her teachings, but even more surprised to see so many of the faculty getting involved." "Who on the faculty?" Strawn pulled out a hastily scrawled list that included names of faculty from almost every department. A lot of these people were hired recently and embraced the same mystical, occult ideas. Quite simply, the college was taken over. How else could the vote for my resignation be unanimous? I used to have some very loyal friends on the Board of Regents, but no more. Let me have the names of your friends. I'd like to talk to them." Bernice started writing down the names as Strawn recalled them. Jake Abernathy had died. Morris James had gone bankrupt in a business and moved to another job. Fred Ainsworth, George Olson, Rita Jacobson had all left Ashton with no word as to where they'd gone. "What about Ted Harmel?" Marshall asked. "Ted knew too much. When they found they couldn't control him any longer, they defamed him and chased him out of town with that ridiculous scandal." "So was he really involved in occultism?" Bernice asked. "For a time. To him, it was a fascinating news story, but he kept getting more wrapped up in it, and I heard him say once that they had promised him great success with his newspaper because he was in their camp. But I guess he thought the truth was inviolable and the press would always be free, and when he began to print stories about the financial problems at the college, he definitely stepped over the boundary as far as the regents were concerned." Marshall knew he was treading on thin ice as he hinted, "Mr. Strawn, Ted wouldn't talk to me. He's scared." "Scared of what?" "Of them, of the system that destroyed him, and I believe his fears are justified." "Could you call him on our behalf?" "I can't promise anything, Marshall." "I'd appreciate just the call. But, Marshall, you people watch out for yourselves. You're not invincible. None of us were. And you could lose everything if you make one wrong move. Be sure you know what you're doing." In the faraway, secluded valley, in the imposing stone ranch house, a middle-aged, roundly built man dressed in loose trousers and tunic sat Indian fashion in his office, his eyes closed, his breathing deep. The room was decorated with souvenirs from around the world. Swords, war clubs, African artifacts, religious relics, grotesque idols from the East. Without hearing a knock, the man spoke. "Come in, Susan." The door opened silently, and in came a pale woman with long black hair. She was carrying a small book wrapped in brown paper. "So you finally found it, if you weren't hiding it yourself." She replied, "It was there all the time. We've been so busy packing that it got shoved over in a corner." He rose and put his arms around her waist. "You've been so troubled lately. Why?" "The move to Ashton. You know I grew up in that town, and all I ever wanted was to get out of there. You can understand why my feelings are confused." He twirled her around and laughed playfully as he looked into her eyes. "Yes, I know. On the one hand, you have no desire at all for the town, and on the other hand, you sneak off to attend the carnival." She blushed a little and looked at the floor. "I was searching for something from my past. I needed answers for the future." "There is no past. I am your future." "Yes, I can see that. I couldn't before." He laughed and went behind his desk. "Well, good. We don't need any more meetings held in hiding places behind a noisy carnival. You should have seen how embarrassed our friends were to have to meet there. But why did you even have to come looking for me? Why did you drag them along?" He sat at the desk and began handling a wicked-looking ceremonial knife. "Because, dear Susan, I love you. I am one in essence with you, but I do not trust you. You, dear Susan, share my life, my secrets, my purposes, but you are a woman of conflicting passions. I have to protect my interests." With that, he dropped the knife, point first, and it thudded into the head of a wooden idol. High above the valley, two figures concealed themselves. One was a silver-haired general of the heavenly host. The other was Tal. "The strong man," said the general. "Rafar had business here only days ago." Tal peered into the valley. The swarms of black demons were too numerous to estimate. And Susan is right in the middle of it. She's dangerously close to the strong man. The prayers of the remnant have blinded the demonic powers around her, but it will buy you time and little more. Tal grimaced. "We could never break through to her. We can barely hold the town of Ashton, much less take on the strong man directly. And you can expect this buildup to worsen. Their numbers increase tenfold each day. And Tal, she knows about the suicide." Grim news. I understand she and Patricia Kruger were very close. The general nodded. "It jolted her, and the Lord was able to speak to her heart. But for that very reason, her time of safety is limited. Here's your next step. The Universal Consciousness Society is holding a fundraising dinner in New York. Now, Susan's master, Alexander Kasef, can't attend because of his activities here. He'll send Susan closely escorted to represent him. This will be the one time she'll be out from under the strongman's demonic cover. She'll try to get away during that time and make contact with one remaining friend on the outside, who can in turn contact your newspaper man. You must make sure she succeeds." "And who is this friend?" Tal asked. "His name is Kevin Weed, a former classmate and boyfriend." Tal spread his wings. "I have some more prayer cover to gather in. Godspeed, dear Captain." As Marshall and Bernice drove back toward Ashton, Nathan and Armot, their angelic escorts, caused them to have car trouble in the small town of Baker. While Marshall consulted a mechanic, Bernice chanced to meet an old acquaintance in the nearby Evergreen Tavern, Kevin Weed, now a half-drunk, semi-employed logger, and the former boyfriend of Patricia Kruger's old roommate, Susan Jacobson. To Bernice's stunned surprise, he had seen Susan Jacobson just recently at the carnival in Ashton.
She didn't talk to me for very long. She was in a hurry. Had to meet her new boyfriend or something. She wanted my phone number, and that was about it.
Kevin, I've got to talk to her. She might know something about my sister's death.
Yeah, I talked to her boyfriend, that fat little geezer with all the bucks.
A hunch ran through Bernice's mind. Kevin, what did Susan look like that night?
Foxy. Long black hair, black dress, sexy shades.
What about her boyfriend?
Pudgy wimp from Fat City. It had to be his money. That's why Susan latched onto him.
Bernice and Kevin exchanged phone numbers. Immediately afterward, Marshall's car started right up, the engine trouble mysteriously gone. Overhead, Nathan sheathed his sword, his temporary sabotage completed. In New York, Tal and Gilo located the posh hotel where the Universal Consciousness Society would be holding its grand fundraiser. Dignitaries representing many nations of the world were gathering, as were myriads of evil spirits. Susan Jacobson was there, out from under the demonic cloud, but closely guarded by two burly escorts. That evening, while Gilo acted as a decoy to lure away the demonic guards, Tal helped Susan sneak away from the hotel and contact her old boyfriend, Kevin Weed, from a phone booth. He was startled and confused to hear from her, but finally agreed to go to Bernice and Marshall at the Clarion and tell them everything he knew about Susan and Alexander Kasich. Then, with split-second timing, Tal and Gilo smuggled Susan back into the hotel before the people or demons guarding her could discover she'd been missing. The next day, the Clarion office was recovering the efficiency Marshall wanted, and the new secretary, Carmen, had a lot to do with it. Marshall passed her desk just outside his office and gave her some praise for her good work before going inside to talk with an important visitor. Kevin Weed was sober but a bit dazed. Marshall prompted, Now let me get this straight. You used to be the male acquaintance of this Susan, and she used to be the roommate of Pat Kruger, Bernice's sister.
Yeah, that's right.
Bernice added, and she was the ghosty-looking woman I photographed that night. The descriptions matched perfectly, even down to the chubby man who was with her.
So let's talk about this chubby man.
Weed told them everything he could remember. The man's name was Kasich, although Weed could only remember the first name starting with an A. He was some kind of wealthy tycoon from New York, apparently in Ashton looking for property to buy.
Oh, and Susan said he's trying to take over the town. He's into weird stuff, like a witch doctor. He got Susan into all that stuff. He and that professor lady at the college.
Langstrat?
Yeah, that was it. Kasich and the prof were teaching night classes together, and Susan took the classes and got real crazy. I mean, way out in space somewhere. And then she got the hots for Kasich, and he took her. He owns her now. She's history.
But then Susan called you.
Yeah. She wants me to be the go-between, to tip you guys off. She thinks your phone might be bugged.
So what do you remember about Pat?
Pat and Susan were friends until Susan got all weird. They never hit it off after that.
So did Kasich and Langstrat consider Pat Kruger an enemy?
Yeah, Pat did stick her neck out, telling Susan she was brainwashed and Kasich was a creep. Pat told me she was going to check the whole thing out, and I think she even went to see Prof. Langstrat a few times. I think Langstrat put a whammy on her. Next time I saw her, she was all spacey like Susan used to get, and talking about her instructor, some new guy she was going with. She told me to butt out, so I did.
Bernice asked, You say she looked spacey? Like Susan?
Yeah, just like Susan.
When? When did you see her like that?
Just a little while before they found her dead. This new guy she was going with, did she ever say his name? Thomas. Some guy named Thomas. But he must have been a pretty weird dude. One minute she'd be talking like he was the greatest, and then the next minute she'd be hiding out and saying he was following her.
No last name?
No.
Bernice got up and headed for the door. I think we have a college roster somewhere. When she returned, she had a message for Marshall. "You've got a call, and it sounds urgent. Kevin, let's go through this roster. Maybe we can find Thomas's full name." Weed stepped into the front office with Bernice as Marshall picked up the phone. "Hogan."
Hogan, this is Ted Harmel. Eldon Strawn called me. I'll give you one interview.
Bernice was just saying goodbye to Weed when Marshall came out of his office. He filled her in. He would be meeting with Harmel tomorrow.
Meanwhile, check the New York phone book.
"I did. No A case if listed."
Scratch that one. Next, check around the local real estate offices. If Weed's right about this case of looking for property in Ashton, the real estate people might know something about it. In the meantime, I'll call Al Lemley and see what he can find out.
All through their meeting with Weed and their following conversation, Carmen, the new secretary, sat at her desk busily working and acting like she hadn't heard a word. The next day, while Bernice checked around the real estate offices, Marshall drove up a crude logging road to meet Ted Harmel out in the middle of thick forest land, far from any listening ears. Harmel was exhausted and frightened.
"We never had this meeting. Agreed?"
"You've got it." "What do you know about me?" Marshall told him as much as he could recall. "Pretty accurate. But as far as molesting Marla Jared, that was a setup. I don't know who coached her, but somebody got that girl to say all the right things to the police."
"So why did it happen, Ted?"
"I got too involved. You're right about Julene and the others. It's a whole network of people, and nobody has any secrets. They're working toward what they call a global mind, when everyone in the world will meld into one transcending consciousness. That's why they meditate and do psychic readings and try to meld their minds together."
"Is this what they do in Langstradt's therapy sessions?"
"Exactly. It's an initiation. Every person has to meet with Julene and learn to achieve altered states of consciousness, psychic powers, out-of-body experiences. Julene's at the core of it all." Harmel began to tremble. "She owned me, Hogan. Maybe she still does. Sometimes I hear her calling me, moving through my brain."
"Does she own the others as well?"
"Yeah, and they won't stop until they own that whole town, and anybody who gets in their way just drops out of sight. They took out Eldon Strawn, then me, then Jefferson."
"Who's Jefferson?"
"He was the district judge. I don't know how they did it, but all at once he sold his home and left town. No one's heard from him since."
"And now Judge Baker's in."
"He's part of the network. He's owned. That's why we could strike a deal. I didn't commit any crime. They just wanted me out of town." Marshall took out a pad and pen.
"Who else belongs to this bunch?"
Harmel looked away. "I can't tell you too much, or they'll trace it back to me. Just check the mayor's office and the town council. See who's new there and who they replaced. Check the county land commissioner, the president of the independent bank, the county comptroller, the regents at the college. Are you religious?"
In a limited sense, I suppose."
"Well, you're going to need something to fight it. It's spiritual, Hogan. They don't listen to reason or to the law or to any set of morals but their own. They don't believe in God. They are God. I just wanted a story, but I got in too thick with Julene. I let her read my aura, probe my mind. After a while, I could do it myself. Leave my body, go out into space, talk to my instructors."
"Instructors? Instructors? Who are they?"
Harmel only sat there, trembling, terror etched in his face. "Hogan, I can't tell you. They'll know about it."
"But who are they? Can you at least tell me that?"
"I don't even know if they're real. They're just there, that's all. Inner teachers, spirit guides, ascended masters. They're called all kinds of things, but when you get mixed up with Langstratt, you get mixed up with them."
"But what are they?"
"Beings, entities. You can't hide from them. They're part of the network. They own you, just like Julene owned me. They could have told me to take a gun and shoot myself, and I would have done it. You have to know them to understand what I'm saying."
"So what do you know about the college finances?"
Eldon was right. The college finances were a mess. I ran a story on it, and Julene came after me. They all did."
"What do you know about some guy named Kasif?"
"Alexander Kasif. Yeah, go after that. Everybody did Julene's bidding, but she did his."
"Was he looking for property around Ashton?"
I know he was drooling over the college and had several meetings with Eugene Baylor, the college treasurer. He already owns half the homes and commercial property around town. Then Harmel pulled a ragged manila envelope from under his jacket. And take this off my hands, will you?
What is it?
I suppose Eldon told you about his accountant friend, Ernie Johnson? Ernie did some snooping around the college accounting office before he ended up dead. These are his findings.
You gotta be kidding.
Did Eldon know about this? No, I just came across them myself. But you're going to need another accountant to decipher it for you. I think there's a whole other half of it missing.
It's a start, thanks.
If you want to play with theories, try this out. Kasich comes to Ashton and wants to buy everything he can get his hands on. The college is not even thinking of selling. Next thing you know, thanks to Baylor, the college gets into such deep financial trouble that selling may be the only way to get out of it. Suddenly, Kasich's offer isn't so far-fetched, and by now the Board of Regents is stacked with yaysayers. Marshall opened the envelope and leafed through the pages of photocopied columns and figures.
And you couldn't find any leads in all of this?
Maybe you will. What you need to find out is who's on the other end of all those transactions.
Kasich's books might tell us.
With all the friends and Confederates he has at that college, I wouldn't be surprised if Kasich was coming back to buy that college with its own money. Marshall met with his old New York buddy Al Lemley, from whom he got a veritable stack of materials on Alexander Kasich. It turned out Kasich was a powerful international financier and president of the Omni Corporation, a low-profile conglomerate that had ownership in over 100 different front corporations, including retail chain stores, banks, mortgage companies, fast food chains, soft drink bottlers, and even Arab oil. The picture began to emerge. Through stealth, through intimidation, through political maneuvering, through ominous unseen spiritual sabotage, the Universal Consciousness Society, backed with Omni Corporation's power and dollars, was taking over the power positions in the town and even the town itself. And the net was beginning to close. On a hill above the town, Rafar sat in the top of a graying snag like an enormous black vulture, silently waiting. On another hill, directly across the town from the big dead tree, Tal and Gila waited and watched, feeling the ominous stillness in the air.
Gila, take a contingent with you, set up watch over the strongman's lair, and wait for my word.
At dusk, Julian Langstratt knelt before her coffee table where a candle burned, the wax flowing and hardening into macabre fingers across a photograph of Ted Harmel on which the candle sat. She extended her hands and let them hover over the candle, then began to chant in a low murmur, her eyes wide and unblinking. Rafar heard her from where he sat. His own breathing began to deepen and chug out of his nostrils like putrid yellow steam. His eyes narrowed, his talons flexed. Then Langstratt froze. Rafar looked up, attentive and very still. Langstratt drew in a long, slow breath, and then, with an eerie wail, she brought her hands down like a trap, clapping them on the candle's wick, snuffing out the flame. Rafar shouted the order, "Go!" And hundreds of demons shot into the sky like a thunderous flock of bats, rushing northward. Rafar let a mocking grin bare his fangs.
I'll keep you guessing, Captain of the Host.
The phone startled Marshall out of a restless sleep. It was Ted Harmel.
Hogan, they found out I talked. They're all over the place.
What?
You gotta
What?
come over, please. You gotta
Who is? Ted?
Kate could hear the cries and wailings squawking out of the receiver, and it unnerved her. "Marshall, who is it?" Marshall couldn't answer. He was busy getting directions to Ted Harmel's residence. Then he jumped up, got dressed, and ran out to the car, leaving Kate totally bewildered. When he finally pulled up in front of Harmel's house at the end of a long gravel road, he could see right away that things were not right. The front door was open. The front window was broken out. And then the fear returned. The same fear he'd felt that night when Sandy ran off and he stalked unseen enemies in his house with a baseball bat. He got out of his car but crouched behind it for a moment, afraid to take another step. "Ted?" No answer. The front porch was littered with broken glass that crunched under Marshall's feet. "Ted Harmel? Ted, it's Marshall Hogan." No answer. Marshall ventured inside. Dishes lay shattered on the kitchen floor. A chair had been thrown through the living room wall. The bulbs were broken out of a light fixture. Books were thrown everywhere. The side window was also broken out, and the table lay outside in the grass. Terror. Marshall could feel it again, just like before. He took hold of a fireplace poker and kept his back to the wall as he inched through the house. It was dark in here. Behind and above him, a black, leathery wing repositioned. Leering yellow eyes watched his every move, all over the room, in the corners of the ceiling, upon the furniture, clinging like insects to the walls, were the demons, some of them snickering, some of them drooling blood. He moved down the hall toward the bedroom. There, the most loathsome spirits awaited him, watching from the ceiling, the walls, every corner, their breathing sounding like the dragging of chains through gravelly mud. When he reached the bedroom door, a single image like a photograph instantly engraved on his mind. A blood-spattered bedspread, the bullet-blasted skull of Ted Harmel, the large revolver still dangling from Harmel's limp hand. Shrieks, thunder, fangs bared to bite. The demons exploded from the walls, corners, every nook of the room, and like arrows went for Marshall's heart. A blinding flash, then another, then another. White-hot swords traced fiery arcs, cutting through the demons like scythes. Parts of demons tumbled into nothingness. Other spirits dissolved in red smoke. Suddenly, the man was surrounded by 4 heavenly warriors, their swords blurring into swirling sheets of brilliance. "Push them back!" shouted Nathan, and the angels darted, spun, batted, sliced at the demons, cutting down their numbers in an instant. And then it was over. No demon remained. None had escaped. "How is he?" asked Nathan. The warrior Cree reported, "Shaken, but all right." Marshall got a grip on himself. The initial fear was gone now. He was thinking again. Harmel was history. But what about the others who had dared to talk? He went to the phone, placed an anonymous call to the police, and then he got out of there. Several miles north, he stopped at a phone booth, called Bernice at the Clarion, and broke the ghastly news to her. "I'm up near Windsor on Highway 38. I'm going to head north and drop by Eldon Strawn's place to check on him. I want you to check on Weed right away. I don't want any more sources dying on me." Marshall drove out to Eldon Strawn's farm. Exactly what he feared had happened. The house had been broken into, the furniture shredded, the windows broken. An obscene message had been scribbled on the mirror over the fireplace. Marshall checked through the whole house, but the Straughns were nowhere to be found. There might be hope. Eldon and Doris might still be alive. "All right, freeze! Police!" Cops from Windsor. What were they doing here? Marshall told them who he was, but they already seemed to know. Beyond that, he said not a word, but quietly cooperated as they put handcuffs on him and took him away. Bernice told Carmen, the secretary, where she would be, and then drove out to the town of Baker to make sure Kevin Weed was all right. She didn't find Kevin, but she did get a shock when she saw his apartment. An enemy had been here as well. Everything Kevin owned was thrown about, broken, spilled, and shattered. Another obscene threat was spray-painted on the wall. She wrote Kevin a quick note in case he came back, still alive, and then hurried to the back stairs to get out of there. Just one flight below the second floor, a wall formed a blind corner between the 2 flights at the middle landing. Bernice was just thinking how she didn't like blind corners in a place like this, and how the lighting was so poor. A black figure leaped at her from the flight below. Her body slammed into the old shiplap wall as her teeth clapped together. Terrible cloth, her body reeling, an impact like an explosion in her left ear, a blurred, hate-filled face. She was falling, sliding down the wall to the floor. A black boot blotted out her vision. Her glasses were driven into her face. Her skull thudded against the wall. She went numb. Marshall burst through the doors of the hospital and got to the emergency room in an instant. He heard a cry of pain from Bernice just as he got there and couldn't believe what he saw. Her attacker had been merciless. "Who did this to you?" Bernice whispered something. He leaned closer, and she whispered it again. "Was Strawn's house nice and neat?" Strawn's place was a mess. He and Doris were gone. I've no idea where they are. Which place was the same way. And there was a threat spray-painted on the wall. He's gone, too. I didn't find him. I'm a suspect in Ted Harmel's death. They found out I was there this morning. They arrested me at Strawn's place. I'm free right now on personal recognizance, thanks to a good word from our old buddy, Alf Brummel. Now he owns you. Exactly. Marshall, Susan Jacobson was right. Our phone must be bugged. Remember? You called me at the Clarion and told me you'd been at Ted's and where you were going next. Yeah, I figured that. But that means the Windsor cops would have to be in on it, too. They knew right where and when to find me at Strawn's. Brummel and Detective Nelson up in Windsor are old friends, Marshall. They must have ears everywhere. They knew I'd be at Weeds alone. And when? Carmen knew it, too. Carmen knows a lot of things. We've been hit, Marshall. They're trying to get a message to us. Brummel wants to meet with me at 3. He said he wants to talk the whole thing over. Wait till I get my hands on him. Marshall was seeing red when he burst into the room, ready to wring the first neck he could get his hands around. There were many necks to choose from. Brummel had friends with him, all seated around the conference table. Oliver Young, Judge Baker, County Comptroller Irving Pierce, Detective Nelson from Windsor. Alf, is this the meeting you and I were going to have?
Yes.
Have a seat. Not while I'm outnumbered. Oliver Young piped in, Marshall, I can assure you that this will be a civil and cordial meeting. So which one of you beat the daylights out of my reporter? Brummel responded, Marshall, these things happen to people who aren't careful. Marshall smeared some descriptions on Brummel like icing from a sewer trap and then announced, the party's over, guys. I'm going to press with every one of you. Oliver Young raised his hands for Marshall's attention. Marshall, all I can say is be sure of your facts. Hey, I have records, proof, testimony, everything I need to put all of you away. Brummel replied, You have no proof, Marshall. You have no records. You ought to see what I have. Young said simply, We have seen it. All of it. We've been following you from the beginning. We know you talked to Ted Harmel and hundreds of other quacks, malcontents, and doomsayers. We know you've been harassing our people and their businesses and snooping in all our personal records. That's all going to stop now, Marshall. Oh, so what's in store for me, Young? How about it, Brummel? Got a nice morals rap to hang on me? You gonna send someone to tear up my house, too? Young sighed. You have so far to go, Marshall, so very far to go. You plan to take over the town, don't you? Buy out the college. Make it some kind of hive for your mind-blown cosmic society. It's for the best, Marshall. It has to be this way. Marshall headed for the door. I'll see you in the paper. You have no paper, Marshall. On that cue, Ned Wesley, the president of the Independent Bank, opened a file folder containing the records of Marshall's business loan on the Clarion. Marshall, you've been delinquent in your payments for 8 months now, and we've received no response from our many inquiries. We have no choice but to foreclose. Marshall was ready to make Wesley eat his phony records, but didn't have time before Jimmy Claiborne from Commercial Printers put in his 2 cents. Marshall, we've been having some trouble with you, too. My records here show we haven't been paid for the last 6 runs of the Clarion. There's no way we can keep printing the paper until these accounts are cleared up. Detective Nelson added, These are very serious matters, Marshall, and since we consider you a suspect in Ted Harmel's murder, these things do not put you in a very good light. As for the courts, said Judge Baker, whatever decisions we ultimately render will depend, I suppose, on your behavior from now on. Especially in light of the complaints of sexual misconduct we've just received, added Brummel. Your daughter must be a very frightened girl to have remained silent for so long. Marshall felt like bullets were ripping into him. He could feel himself dying. He was sure of it. At that moment, Sandy Hogan was in a deep trance in Julene Langstradt's apartment. In an altered state of consciousness, Sandy encountered what looked like a beautiful young lady, Madeline, who promised to be her spirit guide. Sandy was enthralled and all too willing to believe every word the beguiling apparition told her. Marshall returned to the Clarion office and went immediately to the files he'd gathered from the investigation. But his fears were confirmed. Carmen, beautiful, slippery Carmen, had stolen every last shred of information, and the file drawer was empty. He called the hospital. Bernice had been sent home with a cracked rib and bruises. She would pull through. As for the Friday edition of the Clarion, it simply didn't exist. Commercial printers had refused to run it, and for all practical purposes, Marshall was out of business. The telephone rang. Now what?
Marshall, this is Eldon Strawn.
Eldon, are you all right?
Well, no. We just got back from a trip, and our house is a total wreck.
We've all been hit, Eldon. They're on to us. Marshall told him everything. The hardest part was breaking the news about Ted Harmel's death.
Marshall, we'd better run. We just better get the heck out of here and not come back.
Run where? You already ran once, remember? As long as you're alive, Eldon, you're going to be living with this, and they're going to know it.
But what can any of us do?
You have friends, for crying out loud. What about the state attorney general?
I need proof, Marshall. Documentation.
Marshall looked forlornly at his empty file drawer. I'll get you something, Eldon. One way or another, I'll get you something to show to anyone who will listen.
Get me something solid, and I'll see what I can do. For right now, Doris and I are getting out of here.
But where can I reach you?
I won't tell you over the phone. Just wait to hear from the Attorney General's office. It'll mean I got through to him.
Fine. If I'm not here, or I've ended up dead, have him talk to Al Lemley at the New York Times. With that, they said goodbye, maybe forever. Marshall locked up the office and headed for home. Bernice lay at home with an ice bag on her face when the phone rang.
They've torn up my place!
It was Kevin Weed, scared and high-strung.
They must have a contract out on me.
Be careful what you say, Kevin. The phones are bugged.
Oh, man. I just got a call from you-know-who. You think they heard us talking?
I don't know. We just have to be careful.
What am I going to do? What am I going to do? It's all going down, man. Susan said she's got the goods. It's all going down. She's going to split that place.
Kevin, don't say another word. You'd better tell me in person. Where can we meet? They made an appointment to meet at the north end of the Judd River Bridge at 7. Bernice called the Clarion. No answer. She called Marshall at home. No answer there either. Marshall heard the phone ring, but didn't answer it. He was sitting alone in his kitchen, a note from Kate in his trembling hands. She'd left him. He'd pushed her too far, neglected her just too much. She would be in touch, but for now, she was gone. Now Marshall had nothing, not even an ounce of fight. As the minutes passed, all he could do was recall her face, speak her name, and then cry. Gilo bit his lower lip and surveyed the valley below. The strong man's lair was now a boiling, humming cauldron of black spirits, their myriads forming a living haze over the cluster of buildings below. Secluded in her private room, Susan Jacobson sorted through records, ledgers, documents, printed matter, undeveloped film. Only one suitcase, now sitting on her bed, would have to contain it all. She eliminated half of the items and stuffed them in a cardboard box. The rest went into the suitcase. Footsteps in the hall. She slammed the suitcase shut and slid it under the bed. Then she hid the cardboard box behind some linens in the closet. Without knocking, Kasif came into the room along with several armed security men. She went to him and threw her arms around him. "Well, hi, how are things at your end?" He threw her on the bed, then ordered his men, "Search the room." "Alex, what is this?" "Documents are missing. Someone is trying to betray me. I can read it in the atmosphere." He pulled her up from the bed and gazed at her. "I might even be reading it in your eyes." At Hank's house, Tal remained carefully hidden as his warriors brought in people to pray. Hank had called a special prayer meeting, but had no idea this many people would show up. Old church members, new ones, new converts, and their friends. Some people he hadn't seen in years. With one accord, the saints began to worship together and beseech the Lord for the sake of the town, their prayers rising to heaven. A messenger arrived. "Captain, Guido sends word that Susan is near discovery. You must come now." Tal took a quick survey of the prayer cover he had gathered. It had to be enough for tonight's plan to work. The demonic cloud over the valley continued to thicken and swirl, and from their vantage point, Gilo and his warriors could see the glimmer of millions of pairs of yellow eyes. "Where is Tal?" Gilo fretted. "Where is that prayer cover? They know. They know!" An armed thug brought the cardboard box out of the linen closet and dropped it on the bed in front of Kasif. Kasif was satisfied. "Bind her." With brutal force, they bound her in a chair, slapping manacles on her wrists and ankles. Kasif moved in close, his words slapping her like little whips. "I never trusted you, Susan, so we've all kept an eye on you. Since the moment my rival, Mr. Weed, went to the Ashton Clarion, we have made his business our business. And as for that telephone call you made to him today, Susan, did you really think we wouldn't monitor every call going out of here? We knew you'd make your move sooner or later. You've never been to one of our blood rituals, have you? The ancient worshippers of Isis and Moloch were not too far afield in their practices. The birth of the new only follows the death of the old. The birth of good is created by the death of evil. Well, this is karma, dear Susan. Your karma. In other words, he was going to kill her. Guido hissed to his warriors, "Prepare!" And every warrior drew his sword. Tal had the prayer cover he needed. He spread his wings. Several miles outside Ashton, Tal shot out of the ground like a bullet from a rifle, streaking across the sky, a trail of light following him like the tail of a comet, his sword held straight out in front of him. He could feel God's power in response to the prayers of the saints. His sword began to burn with power, glowing brilliantly. He felt it was pulling him through the sky. Faster and faster, the wind screaming, the distance shrinking, his wings an invisible roar. He flew for the strong man's lair. A black-robed, long-haired little guru stepped into Susan's room. "Prepare the altar," Kasif ordered. "There will be a special offering for the success of our endeavor." The little priest left quickly. Kasif took one look at Susan and gave her the back of his hand. Stop that praying!" Her head sank and she began to sob in short, shallow gasps of terror. Kasif went to his office and got a small leather case. Tucking it under his arm, he descended winding stairs into a dark, candlelit room of stone. The little priest was already there, lighting candles and moaning mantras. Kasif handed the leather case to the priest, who opened it and began to set out several ornate, razor-sharp knives. Guido and his warriors stole down the mountainside toward the complex, concealing themselves behind rocks and old snags. Above them, the cloud of leering, laughing spirits boiled and towered like a thunderhead. Below, parked near the administration building, was a large van. Guido hid where he could see the van clearly, then had his warriors fan out, keeping one warrior close by for special instructions. "She's in the upstairs bedroom, that upper window. Wait for my signal." Tal reached the mountains, soared over the peaks, and then glided down the other side silently, invisibly, so low he was almost skidding along the ground. He came to rest beside Gilo. "We have the cover," he said. "Go!" Gilo shouted, and the warrior half ran, half flew toward the big stone house. Susan tried to work the shackles loose, but they were so tight they cut into her even if she didn't struggle. The guards only laughed at her. And then, as if she were slowly waking up from a nightmare, the agonizing, heart-twisting fear began to ebb from her mind, like a slow calming of a storm. There was someone in the room. She could sense it. The shackles fell to the floor and her feet were released. The manacles fell from her wrists, and she pulled her arms free. She looked at the two guards, but they were standing there looking at her, smirking, then looking elsewhere as if nothing had happened. Then she heard a click and looked just in time to see the window latch twist loose and the big bedroom window swing open all by itself. Whether this was illusion or reality, she accepted it. She jumped up from the chair. The guards did nothing. She ran for that open window. Then she remembered. Still keeping a wary eye on those guards, she reached under the bed and dragged out the heavy suitcase that Kasif and his thugs had not found, even in such an obvious hiding place. Feeling light as if someone was lifting her, she climbed through the window and out onto the roof. "Hey, look there!" The security men standing outside looked just in time to see a woman dressed in black scurrying for one of the trucks. "It's Jacobson!" They ran after her, but she had already reached the big van and started up the engine. Ah! Gilo leaped from his hiding place as his troop of 3 and 20 popped into the air like fireworks and trailed after the van. "Cover yourselves, warriors!" The little priest returned for Susan, and his bony hand opened the door. "We are ready," he declared, but suddenly realized he was talking to a pair of very dedicated guards, making sure an empty chair would not get away. The van roared up the precarious road that led over the mountains. 4 angels swooped down behind it, pushing it up the grade, making it top 60. Looking back, they could see the glimmer of fangs and the red flicker of blades. A legion of demons in hot pursuit. 4 of Kasif's security men were chasing the van in a high-powered jeep, amazed that they couldn't catch up. Demons and angels converged on the van, still chugging up the steep grade at more than 60 miles an hour, its tires growling and skidding on the winding, reeling gravel road. Demons dove from above and engaged the angelic warriors in fierce dogfights as the van topped the summit and picked up more speed. The pursuing jeep topped the summit, only seconds behind it. A hairpin turn. Gilo swooped down, sword flashing, hacking his way through demon interceptors. The van was only a fraction of a second from the guardrail and the sheer drop beyond it when Gilo slammed forcefully into its side, jolting the front wheels to the left. The van made the turn. But the warriors encircling the van were being cut away, and the hideous warriors of hell began to break through. The van began to swerve wildly, the tires tiptoeing on the very edge of the chasm. Gilo knew a band of demons must be on the other side, pushing against him. The van veered toward the cliff. He tried to push it back, parry a blow, look for help, strike another demon, kick a face, push the van, cut a flank, parry a blow, guide the van. A blow! It stunned him. He lost his grip on the van, saw the canyon floor spinning far below. He was falling. The van crashed through the guardrail and out over the precipice, falling so far that it seemed to float for an eternity before crashing on the rocks below. The demons perched on the broken guardrail to watch it come to rest in an unrecognizable heap. The security men pulled to a stop and took a satisfied look. When Rafar got the news, he gloated and laughed. He had taken his opponent's queen.
"And so shall it be for the rest. The strong man entrusted the preparation of the town to me. And when he comes, he will find it unoccupied, swept, and put in order."
Then he called for some of his warriors.
"Finish Hogan and Bush. And as for this Kevin Weed, kill him any way you wish."
Marshall remained at the kitchen table as the daylight faded. Ted Harmel was right. It happened. Marshall had lost everything. He was ruined, out on his ear like everybody else. Like Strawn, Jefferson, Gregory, the Carluccis, Waller, James. How many people had he talked to? How many had warned him? There was a noise at the front door. Kate? Sandy? He almost broke into a run, getting to Sandy's room. She was hurriedly going through her closet. Where's Mom? She asked. She's gone to her mother's for a while. She's left you, in other words. Sandy was grabbing clothing and belongings and throwing them into a suitcase and some shopping bags. Looks like you're leaving, too. That's right. But where will you go? Sandy looked up at him for the first time, and the look in her eyes chilled him. A strange, glassy, maniacal expression he had never seen before. Sandy, can we just talk? I'll see you in hell. Marshall sensed it clearly. Something had come into his house. In the meantime, Carmen, Marshall's double-crossing secretary, knocked on the door of Hank and Mary's house. She'd been coming to Hank for counseling lately, singing a sad song of rejection and loneliness, but neither Hank nor Mary felt right about her. Hank sat in a chair opposite her, praying a mile a minute. She looked different, even halfway normal, and yet there was something about her eyes. Marshall remained in the bedroom doorway, blocking it with his body. Sandy, listen to me. There are people who are trying to destroy us. They want this family to fall apart. They're trying to pin a murder rap on me, and it even sounds like they're accusing me of abusing you. That's how terrible this whole thing is. But you did it. You know you did it. Did what, Sandy? She broke down, and tears came to her eyes as she said, You raped me. You raped me. Carmen seemed uncomfortable. Hank, it's time we were truthful and cleared the air once and for all. We're just not being fair to Mary. Mary asked, What do you mean by that? Carmen looked at Mary, took her hand, and said, Mary, Hank and I have been having an affair. Well, it's true. Well, tell her, Hank. Please tell her. Hank spoke firmly. Carmen, I think there's a serious spiritual problem here. May we pray with you? There were 15 spirits packed into Carmen's body like maggots, boiling, writhing, a tangle of hideous arms, legs, talons, and heads. They began to squirm. Carmen began to squirm. They moaned and cried out, and so did Carmen, her eyes turning glassy and vacant. Outside the room, Creone and Triscoll watched from a distance. Orders, orders, orders. Tal knows what he's doing. Hank's playing with a bomb in there. Those demons will tear him apart. Marshall was horrified. Sandy, it's me, Marshall Hogan, your father. Think, Sandy. You know I never touched you. I never molested you. You did. It was something my mind blocked out for years, but Professor Langstratt brought it out. Langstratt? She'd put me under hypnosis, and I saw it like it was yesterday. You did it, and I hate you. From outside the house, Nathan and Armond could see the deceiving spirit clinging to Sandy's back, its talons deep in her skull. Tal landed beside them, preserve their lives, but Hogan must fall. The 15 spirits in Carmen were foaming and frothing. Let us go, praying man, Carmen's voice warned. Hank asked, Carmen, do you want to be delivered? She can't hear you. Let us alone. She belongs to us. In the name of Jesus, come out of her. The bomb exploded. Carmen pounced on Hank like a leopard, clawing, biting, mauling. Her teeth clamped onto his right arm. He pushed and pounded with his left. Demon, let go! The jaws opened. Hank gave a mighty shove, and Carmen's body staggered backward, twitching and shrieking. He was looking into the eyes of a beast. He could smell the sulphurous breath hissing through the bared teeth. Sharp fingernails snagged and tore at his shirt. Some dug into his flesh. He could hear Mary screaming, Stop it, spirit! In Jesus' name, stop it! I won't! I won't! Carmen's body slammed into the front door, splitting the jamb. Hank yanked the door open, and she dashed out the door and down the street. Sandy struck like a rattlesnake, wailing and pouncing on Marshall with flying fists. Okay, you can go. Just remember, I love you. She grabbed her suitcase and shopping bags and bolted for the front door. He followed her. He wanted one last glimpse of her. When he came around the corner, all he saw was the lamp that smacked into his skull. He crumpled to one knee, slumping against the couch. His hand went to his head. He was bleeding. Marshall! A hand rested on his shoulder. It was a woman. Kate? Sandy? No, Bernice. Squinting at him through blackened eyes. Marshall, what happened? Are you still there? Help me clean up this mess. I just saw Sandy drive off with that boyfriend of hers. Was this her doing? Yeah. She pitched the lamp at me. She's not herself at all. She's gone crazy. Where's Kate? She's left me. Bernice settled to the floor, her bruised face the picture of shock, dismay, and exhaustion. Neither of them said anything for a few moments, but just stared at each other. Man, you're a mess. I thought you were supposed to be resting at home. I just got back from Baker. I've got bad news. Weed? He's dead, Marshall. The truck he was driving went off the Judd River Bridge and into that big canyon. We were supposed to meet each other there. He'd just gotten a call from Susan Jacobson, and it sounded important. Marshall's head fell back against the couch, and he closed his eyes. Great. Just great. Either my phone or his was bugged. That accident had to have been set up. I got out of there fast. We're going down, Bernie. Marshall went on to tell her all about his afternoon. You giving up? We were warned, Bernie, and we didn't listen. They got me, they got all our records, any proof we ever had. Harmel blew his brains out. Strawn's getting as far away from it as he can. They took out weed. Right now, I'm just barely alive, and that's all I have left. What about Susan Jacobson? I doubt she's even alive by now. Kevin said she had the goods and was getting out. If she has the evidence, we need to seal this thing up. They took care of that, Bernie, remember? Weed was our last contact with her. Want to toy with a theory? No. If Kevin's phone was bugged, they know what Weed and Susan talked about. So Susan's as good as dead, too. We don't know that. Maybe she got away. Maybe she was going to meet Kevin someplace. Somewhere there's got to be a recording of that phone call. Yeah, but where? Well, think for a minute. Think of all the people who seem to have responded to the alleged bug. The Windsor cops knew they could find you at Strawn's after you told me you'd be there. No, they wouldn't have it. They're too far away. But what about Brummel? Could be. He fired Sarah, you know. She wasn't there today. She'd been replaced. Yeah. She talked to me on the phone and ratted on Brummel a little. And then he fired her. He must have heard that conversation, too. Hey, you know, Brummel just got some new cabinets. Keep going. When I went to see him to get your bail money back, he had some new office equipment, and there was a wire coming out of the wall. Hey, Bernice, it was telephone wire. If that recording equipment is in Brummel's office, if we could find any tapes of telephone conversations, it might be enough to bring charges, illegal wiretapping, murder. Chilling thought. We need Sarah. I made a deal with her. If she's on our side, now's when she can prove it. It wasn't entirely surprising when two police officers came to Hank's door. Henry Bush? Yeah. Suddenly, the cops spun Hank around and slapped cuffs on him. Mr. Bush, we're placing you under arrest. It's my duty to advise you of your rights. You have a right to remain silent. But on what charges? Suspected rape. Tal and his warriors heard the telephones ringing all over town. The entire remnant was buzzing with the news of Hank's arrest. The praying began. Bush has fallen, said Tal. Only Hogan remains. He turned to Kaiman and Mota. Did Sarah have the keys? Kaiman answered. She had several keys copied before she left her job at the police station. She's met with Hogan and Kruger. They have the keys and know how to get in. Late that night, Marshall hid the Buick in a vacant lot a few blocks from Courthouse Square. He and Bernice were dressed in dark clothes and rubber gloves and carried flashlights. The burglar alarm at the police station was right where Sarah said it would be. Marshall used one of the copied keys to deactivate it. Another key opened the station door, and a third got them into Brummel's office. There sat Brummel's new cabinetry. Marshall clicked on his flashlight and swung open the lower left cabinet door. And there sat a recording machine with a good supply of tape. Eureka! Yeah, it must be signal activated. Switches on automatically whenever an input comes in. Bernice found some files. It looks like a catalog. Look, names, dates, conversations, and what tapes they're on. That handwriting looks familiar. Who in the world has time to list all this stuff? When was that conversation between Susan and Weed? Today, yesterday, who knows? Must be on the machine now. Marshall wound the tape back, and they began to listen to conversations between all sorts of people about all kinds of topics. He put the machine on fast forward and searched ahead. A voice came from the machine.
Man, this whole thing is crazy.
That's him. That's Weed. Marshall wound the tape back to hear the whole conversation.
Yeah? Hello? Kevin, this is Susan. Yeah, I'm listening, man. What can I do? Kevin, I'm getting out, and I'm doing it tonight. Can you meet me at the Evergreen Tavern tomorrow night? Yeah. Try to bring Bernice Kruger with you. I have everything she needs to know. Man, this whole thing is crazy. You ought to see my place. Somebody came in here and tore it all up. You be careful. We're all in great danger, Kevin. Case of moving to Ashton to take over everything. But I can't talk now. Meet me at the Evergreen tomorrow night at 8. I'll try to get there somehow. If not, I'll call you. Okay. I have to go.
The conversation was over. It wasn't much, said Marshall, but it was enough. A key rattled in the front door. Bernice and Marshall never moved so fast. She replaced all the files. Marshall slid the machine back inside the cabinet. The front door opened. They ducked behind Brummel's desk. The office door opened. The lights came on. They heard someone going to the cabinets and sliding out the machine. It was Carmen. She was winding the tape back and preparing to make more entries in the record. Don't you ever sleep? What? Oh, what are you doing here? I might ask you the same thing. Do you have any idea what time it is? You're a spy, aren't you? You spied in our office. You wiretapped our phones, and now you've run off with our investigation materials. I don't know what I'm talking about. Right. So I suppose you do this every night, too. Go over all the recorded phone conversations and log them. Listen for anything the big boys might want to know. I wasn't. And what about the Clarion's business records? Let's take care of that first. Oh, you don't understand. She ran into the reception area. Marshall was right on her heels, not about to let her out of his sight. He took her by the arm and spun her around. Easy, girl. We have some things to discuss. She collapsed to the floor, weeping. Oh, don't you understand? Don't you have any heart? I came here for help. I've been raped. Then she flopped on the floor, weeping a little too much to be believable. Marshall took hold of her, lifting her from the floor. Come on, get up. It was just as he saw her hand come off the silent alarm button in the floor that the front door burst open, and he heard a voice holler, "Freeze! Police!" Carmen was no longer crying. She was smirking. Marshall put his hands up, and so did Bernice. Friends of yours? She only smiled an evil smile and stood by the two uniformed police officers. Then Alf Brummel came into the building, fresh out of bed and in his bathrobe. Well, who do we have here? Bernice Kruger, is that you? Then Julene Langstratt, also in a bathrobe, came in and sidled up to Brummel, smiling wickedly. Read them their rights, boys, and take them into custody, said Brummel. Marshall saw the opportunity and took it. Instantly, with all his weight, he dove into Brummel's stomach and toppled Brummel and Langstratt backward into the two cops. Run, Bernie, run! She ran for all she was worth. Marshall did his best to remain tangled in all the arms, hands, and bodies. He just wanted to keep them busy. One cop finally recovered and ran after Bernice, bursting out the back door. He heard her running up the back alley, and away he went in hot pursuit. She stomped through a freshly tilled garden, flattening several bean poles, then across a lawn, back down an alley, ran into some garbage cans, then clambered over another fence. She was getting desperately tired and could only hope the cop was, too. Her rib was screaming in pain with every breath. Finally, she plunged into a thicket behind a gas station and sank into a dark tangle of brush. The cop hurried on. He had lost her. Marshall lay handcuffed on the floor while Langstratt, Brummel, and Carmen reviewed the recorded conversation between Kevin Weed and Susan Jacobson. Langstrath laughed. Kruger has to be heading for the Evergreen Tavern in Baker to meet Jacobson. Poor innocent thing. I'll have it staked out, said Brummel. As for Marshall, they had enough concocted charges to put him away for quite some time, and now they could add burglary to all the others. Through the rest of the night, Bernice fought pain, exhaustion, and faintness as she stole her way through the town. With no other alternative, she set out on foot for Highway 27. She had to get to the Evergreen Tavern in Baker. Hank was asleep in a dingy jail cell when he was awakened by the guard bringing in another prisoner, a big, burly guy with a bandage on his head. He was griping about having to share a cell with a rapist. The new guy flopped down on the other cot and breathed that heavy kind of breath one associates with bears, dragons, and monsters. Hank just prayed, "Lord, please deliver me." Rafar strutted back and forth on his hilltop overlooking the town, his wings trailing like a regal cape behind him.
Courier, take word to the strong man that all is ready, and that he may come at his will. The obstacles are removed. Rafar has completed his task, and the town of Ashton is ready to fall into his hands like a ripe plum.
The saints, aroused by Hank's arrest and urged on by the Spirit of God, went to fervent prayer. As a result, from north, from south, from east and west, heavenly warriors continued to gather in the town, ready and waiting. Hank and the big stranger sharing his cell hadn't exchanged a word all morning. Things changed at lunch. Hank asked the guard for a Bible, and the guard ignored him. Suddenly, the big man burst out. "Jimmy, you've got a stack of Gideon Bibles in your desk drawer, and you know it. Now give the man a Bible." The guard only sneered. "Hey, you're on that side of the bars now, Hogan. I'll run the show out here." Well, the guy seemed to be on Hank's side. Hank extended his hand. Hank Bush?" The man took his hand and gave it a firm shake. "Marshall Hogan." "Say, aren't you..." "You're the pastor of that little church. And you're the editor of the Clarion." "So you've crossed Alf Brummel and his friends, huh?" Well, yes. "So have I. That's why we're here. Tell me, do you even know this girl you supposedly raped?" "Well, where'd you get those bite marks on your arm?" I better not say anything. "Was her name Carmen?" Hank's face said a yes that was almost audible. "Treacherous gal. She used to work for me." "How do you know about all this?" "Hank, have I got a story for you?" "Well, I might have one for you, too." Marshall went first, starting at the beginning when Bernice was arrested. By the time he finished his whole story, including the heart-wrenching breakup of his family, Hank was having a religious experience, exulting in the Lord with tears in his eyes. "Marshall, this is of God. Our enemies meant it for evil, but God meant it for good. You haven't heard my story yet, but guess what? It's the same. We've both been coming up against the same problem, but from opposite sides." Miraculously, with special assistance she didn't realize was angelic, Bernice made it to the town of Baker and took time to rest and eat at a small cafe just down the road from the Evergreen Tavern. Then at 7:30, with what little nerve she had left, she slipped in the back door of the Evergreen Tavern and blended in with the noisy crowd, almost unable to see through sunglasses that hid her blackened eyes. Nonchalantly, she moved about the place looking for that mysterious, ghosty-looking woman she'd seen so long ago at the carnival. Then she noticed the bartender pulling the front window shades down. Uh-oh, was that a signal? It was a signal. Right away, 2 uniformed police burst in through the front door. Where was that back door? In the dark, in this crowd, with her sunglasses on, she wasn't sure she could even find it. "Hey, stop that woman! Police, hold it!" She burst through the back door and dashed into the woods. She could hear the shouts of her pursuers. They didn't seem to know which way she'd gone. She kept running until she broke out of the woods again and came to a back road. Now which way? She looked back. A figure was running behind her in hot pursuit. "Oh, God, help me!" She came to an old barn and found the door. She practically fell through it. Inside was inky blackness. She ducked into one of the stalls and tried to quell her gasping. The steps of her pursuer slowed, moving cautiously into the barn. Bernice touched a handle. She felt downward. A pitchfork. She took it in her hands. The pursuer was checking every stall. Bernice could see a small beam of light sweeping here and there. The light shined in her eyes. There was a gasp. Come on, Bernice, throw the pitchfork. Her arms would not move. Bernice Kruger. Bernice still didn't move. She held the pitchfork high. Bernice, no, don't throw it. It's Susan Jacobson. I'm alone. Bernice was irrational with fear, and words meant nothing. Who are you? Susan Jacobson, your sister Pat's old roommate. We had an appointment. Susan shone her little penlight on her own face. The black hair and pale complexion were unmistakable. Bernice lowered the pitchfork, and then she dropped it, letting out a muffled wail, her hand over her mouth. She suddenly realized she was in terrible pain. You're hurt. I try to keep everything in perspective. I'm still alive. I found the real, live Susan Jacobson. I haven't had to kill anybody. The police haven't found me. And I have a cracked rib. Susan put her arms around her. Oh, gently, gently. Where did you come from? How did you find me? I was watching the tavern from across the street, and I saw the police chasing you. I used to think I'd never seen a miracle, but now I don't know. As the two women sat there in the straw in the dark, Bernice tried to explain everything to Susan, her battered face, her cracked rib, what she and Marshall had been through, and the death of Kevin Weed. Susan digested it for a moment and then replied, It's K-Sif's way. It's the society's way. I shouldn't have brought Kevin into this, but I can't think about that now. We have to move. Can you walk? No, but that hasn't stopped me yet. Susan helped Bernice along, and they made their way back across the field to Susan's rented car. Susan, said a voice from the woods. They froze. Susan Jacobson. I don't believe it. I don't believe it either. Kevin? A man stepped out of the woods, and there was no mistaking that lanky frame and that lazy walk. Kevin Weed? Bernice Kruger. You made it. Oh, that's great. Let's get out of here, said Susan. Bernice, Susan, and Kevin wasted no time putting miles between themselves and Baker, and as they rode and talked, it became clear that all three had received help from mysterious, unknown allies. Susan had not only been freed to escape through K-Sif's bedroom window, she'd also been able to get away on foot when someone, she didn't know who, drove off in one of the vans, drawing away the guards. Kevin had been drugged and could have driven off the Jed River Bridge himself, except that someone drove away in his truck after he'd passed out in a roadside restroom. Bernice never would have made it to Baker if a girl on a motorcycle hadn't given her a ride and then mysteriously vanished. One answer occurred to them. It could have been angels. Susan took them to the little town of Orting where she'd rented a motel room. Once there, she revealed the contents of her big suitcase, particularly a small book, the diary of Bernice's sister, Patricia Kruger. Julian Langstratt stole it from Pat's room right after her death and sent it to K-Sif. I recognized it right away. When I read it, I realized what K-Sif was really after. Susan, do you know how my sister died? She was done away with by the forces behind the Universal Consciousness Society. Was it Thomas? It was Thomas, but he wasn't human. What do you mean? Your sister was trying to check out what K-Sif and Langstratt were doing. She took part in parapsychology experiments until she had a psychic experience and, as she described it, contacted a highly evolved, disembodied human from another dimension. I don't understand this. Well, we've talked about God. We've toyed with the idea of angels. Now try evil angels, evil spirit entities, taking whatever form necessary to deceive and control a person. Kevin piped in, Yeah, I remember how Pat talked about Thomas, like he was a god. Pat had given her will over to Thomas. He terrified her, then convinced her that death would be the best way to escape the evil of this lower world and join him in a higher state of existence. Susan flipped the pages of the diary and found the last entry. There, the last thing in Pat's diary is a love letter to Thomas. She plans to join him soon, and she even describes how she'll do it. Bernice read her sister's final words, and emotions that had waited for this very moment began to rush through her like a river through an opened floodgate until the pages blurred behind a cascade of tears. Hank slept peacefully in the cell, but Marshall could not sleep at all. He sat up in the dark, his back against the cold, hard bars of the cell. This Hank Bush was right. Just look at yourself, Hogan. Don't worry about God dropping the ball. You dropped it a long time ago. You thought you had everything under control. And now where's your family? And where are you? Maybe you've been tricked by these demons Hank's been talking about. And then maybe you've even fooled yourself. Come on, Marshall. You know you shortchanged your family. Kate, he whispered, his eyes glistening with tears. Kate, what have I done? He reached across the cell and nudged Hank's shoulder. Yeah? What's up? Hank, I need God. Yeah, I need Jesus. How many times in his life had Hank said the words, "Let's pray"? Susan spoke softly, even as Bernice wept. I knew I had to get away. That's why I went to the carnival, hoping I'd find some old friends I could confide in. Kevin smiled. Yeah, that's where I came in. Exactly. But then Kasif, Young, Brummel, and Langstrath showed up and dragged me off behind the dart-throwing booth so we wouldn't be seen together. Which we were. Bernice offered, so they had me arrested? Mm-hmm. They had to get your film. Susan went to her suitcase. But now for the big news. Kasif is making his move tomorrow. There's a special meeting scheduled with the Whitmore College Regents at 2 in the afternoon. Omni Corporation, as a front for the Universal Consciousness Society, is going to buy the college, and Kasif is closing the deal. Bernice pounded the bed in frustration. Susan, we have records of Eugene Baylor's financial maneuverings, evidence that might show how the college was undermined, but we haven't been able to make sense of it all. Susan pulled a little canister out of the suitcase. That's because you only have half the picture. What you need is the other side of those transactions, Kasif's own records. I didn't have room for all that material, but I did photograph it, and if we could get this film developed, we have a darkroom at the Clarion. Then let's go. The remnant continued to pray, and everywhere, from every direction, new spirit visitors continued to steal into the town in all manner of disguises until the nooks, crannies, unused rooms, and countless other hiding places all over the town became alive with still, silent figures, their burly hands upon their swords, their golden eyes piercing and alert, their ears tuned to hear the blast of one particular trumpet. In the remote valley, a rapidly growing cloud of demon spirits churned for a radius of 2 miles all around the ranch, towering as high as the mountaintops, their density such that the cloud totally obscured anything within it. In the darkened center of the cloud, in the big stone house, the strong man gloated over the news he had just received from Ashton.
Prince Rafar has satisfied my wishes. He has fulfilled his mission. Now, in my hands, Ashton will grow like a tree and fill the countryside. Generals, prepare the ranks. We leave immediately.
Then he floated like a monstrous, overweight vulture into the basement room where Alexander Kasif sat cross-legged on a cushion, chanting the strong man's name over and over again. In a matter of seconds, the strong man sank deep into Kasif's body, and the possession was complete. Kasif awoke from his meditation. The time has come. Bernice, Susan, and Kevin slipped into the Clarion just as Sunday began to dawn, and then squeezed into the darkroom where Bernice began developing Susan's roll of film. I'm dying to know what's happening to Marshall. I'm wondering about his daughter Sandy, too. Last time I saw her, she was driving off with that Sean character. With who? Who did you say? Some guy named Sean? Sean Ormsby? Uh-oh, sounds like you know him. Sean Ormsby appears quite a few times in your sister's diary. He's the one who got Pat involved in those parapsychology experiments. And he's the one who introduced her to Thomas. Madeline, Sandy Hogan's beautiful and golden-haired spirit guide, was not a highly evolved superhuman from a higher dimension. Madeline was a demon. She bowed before Rafar.
My lord, since Marshal Hogan is defeated and powerless, what would you now wish for Sandy Hogan, his daughter?
Do not destroy her yet. We could use her for extra assurance against this Marshal Hogan.
Sean was awakened by an early morning phone call. It was Julene Langstratt.
I've heard from the masters. They want some extra assurance that Hogan won't be an obstacle. Is Sandy still there with you?
I still have her.
The regents are going to meet in the administration building, the third-floor conference room. I've reserved room 326 across the hall for us and the other psychics. Bring Sandy with you. The masters want her there.
As Langstratt hung up the phone, she could hear Alf Brummel clattering about in the kitchen. I'll be glad when this day is over and everything quiets down. I'm chief of police and I've broken every law in the books. Langstratt, primly dressed and ready to leave for the college, put her hand on his shoulder. Alf, after today, we will be the law. Oh, we better make good and sure of that. We'll meet right across the hall from the closure meeting this afternoon. With our combined psychic energies, we can assure that nothing will stand in the way of complete success. But I don't dare go out in public. Ever since we collared Bush, I've felt like a hunted man. You will be there, Alf. Oliver and the others will be there. And Sandy Hogan will be there. Sandy Hogan? Why? Insurance. Another one? You're going to kill another one? That's for the masters to decide. But make sure Hogan knows we have her. You want me to tell him? Why me? Mr. Brummel, Marshal Hogan is in your jail. You are in charge of him. You will tell him. With that, she went out the front door. Brummel stood there for a moment, his thoughts swimming like a school of frightened fish.
Brummel, Julene's using you to do her dirty work. And now she's setting you up as an accessory to murder. If I were you, I'd start looking out for number one. This whole plan will be found out sooner or later, and guess who will be caught holding the bag?
Brummel listened to his thoughts. The masters say this and the masters say that, but what do they have to lose?
Brummel, why don't you stop Julene before she totally ruins your life? Why don't you be a real lawman for once?
Yeah, why don't I? Lucius, the deposed Prince of Ashton, stood in the kitchen with Alf Brummel, having a little discussion. Brummel always was a little flimsy. Lucius intended to make use of him. The remote valley was now filled like a huge bowl of boiling, swirling ink, accented by myriads of glowing yellow eyes. Alexander Kasif, possessed by the strong man, got into his waiting limousine. All the papers were ready for signing. His attorneys would meet him at the Whitmore Administration Building. As the limousine carrying Kasif and the strong man made its way out of the valley, the sea of demons began to shift in that direction like the turn of the tide, as the drone of countless billions of wings rose in pitch and intensity. At the Ashton Clarion, Bernice and Susan stood at the enlarger, viewing the projected image of the negatives. All the documents were there. At that moment, the saints of God were gathering outside the jail to pray until something broke, until their pastor was released. Tal could hear their worship from his hiding place. He nodded his head with satisfaction. A messenger arrived. The strong man is on his way. Another messenger reported, we have prayer cover now from 32 cities. There are 14 more being raised up. Tal could sense the power of God's presence. Gather in the sources. Lamley, Strawn, Madeley, Cole, and Parker. Do it abruptly. The timing will be important. The Clarion telephone rang. Bernice didn't dare answer it, but let the answering machine squawk out its message. After the beep tone came a voice.
Hello, this is Harvey Cole, the accountant. I finished working on those accounts you gave me.
Wait, said Bernice. Turn it up.
I really need to get in touch with you as soon as possible.
Bernice snatched up the telephone. Harvey, this is Bernice. Susan and Kevin were horrified. What are you doing? The cops are going to hear this, man.
Oh, you're there.
Harvey, just listen. Call Justin Parker, the county prosecutor. Tell him we have some materials to show him.
Hey, what's up?
Just do it. The police are after me, and they've bugged this phone, so you'd better hurry. Bernice hung up and shrugged at Kevin and Susan. Call it a gamble. The phone rang again. They waited for the voice to come out of the answering machine.
Marshal, this is Al Lamley. Listen, I've got some pretty stirred-up feds here that want to talk to you about your man Kasich. They've been tracking him for some time, and...
Bernice picked up the phone again. Al, this is Bernice Kruger. Can you bring those men to Ashton today? Lamley was shocked to hear Bernice's quick recounting of everything that was happening.
Okay, Bernice, I'll do everything I can.
Make it the administration building on the Whitmore College campus at or before 2. The phone rang again. Bernice snatched it right up. It was Attorney General Norm Madeley. Eldon Strawn was standing right in his office, and Madeley was calling to find out what was going on. We have evidence to show you, but you need to come today. Ashton is going to be taken over by an international terrorist organization at 2 o'clock. Bernice hung up, and the phone rang again.
Hello, this is County Prosecutor Justin Parker.
There is a God. Alf Brummel couldn't stand it anymore. He had to get to the station before everything went beyond his control. When he arrived, the Saints converged on him like a swarm of mosquitoes. Brummel ducked inside the station and locked the door behind him. Julene. This was all her fault. Oh no, he still had to get a message to Hogan about Sandy. Now this was another of Julene's fine messes. The bum rap against Bush isn't enough. Now I've got to be pegged with whatever happens to Sandy Hogan. But what about Kruger? Had she been able to snitch about this whole thing? He bolted out of his office and ran down to the dispatch room. Anything yet on that fugitive? Well, Kelsey reports a strange car parked in back of the Clarion, but it's out of state and the plates haven't been traced. They haven't! Get those plates traced! Check that building! Somebody could be in there! Chief Brummel, Bernice Kruger is on the phone. Should I take a message? No! He ran up the hall to his office. I'll take it in here. Hello?
Mr. Alfred Brummel.
Bernice.
It's time we had a talk.
All right. Where are you?
Don't be an idiot. Listen, I'm giving you an ultimatum. I've been talking to the state attorney general, the county prosecutor, and the feds. I have evidence, and I mean some really hard stuff, that will blow your little plot wide open, and they're all on their way here to see it.
You're bluffing.
You have the conversations on tape, no doubt. Just play them back.
So what's your ultimatum?
Spring Hogan, now, and call off the manhunt for me. In 2 hours, I intend to show my face in this town, and I'll have special guests with me.
I still say you're bluffing.
Play your little bugging machine, Alf. Then we'll see who's bluffing.
Brummel looked at the cabinets in his office for only a second, and then phoned the jail. Spring Hogan and Bush. Abruptly, without explanation, Marshall and Hank were sprung from the jail, and then the rejoicing, shouting, and embracing began. But it didn't last long. Bernice, Susan, and Kevin arrived immediately and updated Marshall on everything, including the possibility of Sandy being in danger. Marshall was determined to attend that meeting at Whitmore College at 2, and made sure that Hank and his praying saints would be there as well. Near the big, dead tree, Rafar rose from his place, looking eastward as his attending hordes gathered around him. Then he saw it, and his breath sucked in through his fangs at the thrill. He unsheathed his sword, making it drone and shimmer with blood-red light. Then, with a powerful burst of his wings, he sailed high above the town where he could be seen by anyone, anywhere.
Captain of the hosts of heaven, Captain Tal, hear me.
Tal and all of his warriors were gathered to listen.
Tal, will you dare to show your face to me? I think not. I give you leave, Captain Tal, to withdraw yourself. I grant you and your warriors the occasion to turn away. For as you can see, the battle's decision is made already.
Rafar then pointed his sword toward the eastern horizon and said,
Look to the east, Captain. There is the outcome clearly written.
Tal and his warriors were already looking toward the eastern horizon, their attention rapt and unswerving, even when a young messenger came soaring in with the news. Hogan and Bush are free! They've... His eyes followed every other gaze to the east. Oh, no. At first, the cloud had been only a distant fingertip of blackness poking up over the horizon. It could have been a rain cloud, or factory smoke, or a distant haze-darkened mountain. But as it drew nearer, its borders expanded outward like the emerging edge of a blunt arrowhead, stretching across the horizon like a shroud, like a steadily rising tide of blackness blocking out the sky. Not since Babylon, said Gilo. They were there, said Tal. Every one of them. Then, as the deep, rumbling drone of the wings became audible, and the shadow of the clouds began to fall across the fields and farmlands beyond Ashton, a reddish tint spread through the cloud as if it were burning from within. They've drawn their swords, said Gilo. Sandy Hogan was afraid. Despite all her efforts to reassure herself that this would be a marvelous growth opportunity and not anything to fear, she could not dispel the dread she felt inside as Sean took her to room 326. Sean opened the door. You'll love this. To Sandy, this was only the staff lounge, a pleasant room with soft carpet, leather-upholstered couches, massive burl coffee tables. But the room was occupied, densely and hideously, and the yellow eyes glared at her from every corner and chair and wall. They were waiting for her. Sandy greeted Oliver Young and embraced Professor Langstratt, then smiled greeting to faculty members, business people, blue-collar workers, and other citizens from all across the town, 30 of Ashton's best. Deception showed her off like a trophy. Madeline was there, smiling wickedly, and beside her, or it, was another demon, with loop upon loop of heavy, glistening chains draped over his bony hands. As the cloud approached, the regents gathered in the third-floor conference room. Soon it would be 2 o'clock. The evil spirits in the room were nervous. They knew they would soon be in the presence of the strong man. The cloud of demons descended over the town like a black curtain, closing it in. Tal was edgy. What about Hogan and Bush? The messenger reported. Moving into place, along with the remnant. Kasif could see the stately brick buildings of the college campus from his limousine. He looked at his watch. He would be right on time. He didn't notice that a parade of vehicles was following him. Alf Brummel was speeding toward the college in a green, unmarked squad car, unaware that behind him were several vehicles carrying the remnant, with Marshall, Hank, Bernice, Susan, Kevin taking the lead in Marshall's Buick. It was going to be quite a meeting. At Julian Langstratt's direction, all the smiling psychics, along with Sandy and Sean, made themselves comfortable in chairs and couches arranged in a circle. Our purpose here is to combine our psychic energies to assure the success of today's venture. Visualize the Whitmore College campus, and afterward the whole town of Ashton, becoming a vanguard of the New World Order. Everyone applauded. Sandy applauded as well, though she didn't know what Langstratt was talking about. I have a new ascended master to introduce to you. His name is Rafar, a prince from long ago who once ruled in ancient Babylon. He's lived many lives and now returns to let us benefit from his wisdom. Langstrat closed her eyes and breathed deeply. Let us call him, and he will speak to us. Sandy could feel a queasiness in the pit of her stomach, but she closed her eyes and began her own relaxation, listening intently for the sound of Langstrat's voice. The others relaxed and went into a trance. Then Langstrat uttered the name, Rafar. Rafar heard their call.
And now the pieces fall into place. Any word from Lucius?
A demon was happy to report, Lucius has surveyed all fronts and finds no trouble or resistance. Rafar's wings clapped downward, and he shot into the air. As he sailed over Ashton in a high arc, he could look up and see myriads of red swords waving in salute. Ahead and far below was the Whitmore campus. The limousine carrying the strongman was just arriving at the administration building. This was it, the moment. He disappeared through the roof of the building just as the strongman and his human host emerged from the limousine. And just a little too soon to see a stream of cars not far behind that limousine. Gillo grew more and more restless, pacing about, looking from one end of the town to the other as the black cloud of spirits descended like a shroud over the town. Soon they'll cover the entire town, and there will be no escape. Tal remained steady, looking toward the college. Just a few more minutes, and all the players will be in position. The demons in the conference room braced themselves. A darkness, a crawling cloud of evil was coming down the hall. The door opened. They froze in respect and homage. There he stood, the strong man, nothing less than the most horrible nightmare. Alexander Kasef had arrived to do business. Alf Brummel tiptoed to room 326 and cracked the door just enough to see in. Yes, there was Langstrat, Sandy Hogan, and the others all meditating, chanting. He stepped silently into the room and found a chair halfway around the circle from Langstrat. They were calling for a certain spirit guide. He'd never heard the name before. Outside, Hank and Marshall gave the remnant a brief rundown on the situation, and then Hank concluded, "This is a spiritual battle, so you know what to do." They all knew, and they were ready. Marshall, Hank, Kevin, and Susan went into the building. Bernice went to a vacant spot on the steps and sat down to watch for the VIPs. Rafar emerged from the walls of the room, stepped up behind Langstrat, and sank his talons deep into her skull. Her countenance took on the unmistakable expressions of the Prince of Babylon himself.
Indeed,
came Rafar's voice from Langstrat's throat. Everyone shuddered, their eyes popping open and then widening at the sight of Langstrat, her eyes bulging, her teeth bared, her back arched like a crouching lion.
Indeed. Have you all come together to see your vision fulfilled? So shall it be.
The creature pointed a crooked finger at Sandy.
And who is this newcomer? This searcher for the hidden wisdom?
Sandy Hogan.
Have you walked many pathways with Madeline, your instructor?
Yes, Rafar, I have.
Then descend within yourself again, Sandy Hogan, and Madeline will meet you there.
Instantly, a slimy, death-like spirit behind Sandy clapped his bony hand down on her head. Her eyes rolled upward. She wilted in her chair and felt her body dissolving away, along with all rational thoughts and nagging fears. She heard a familiar voice. Sandy! Madeline, where are you? Madeline appeared deep within an endless tunnel, floating forward, her arms outstretched. Sandy moved toward the tunnel to meet her, and Madeline came into sharp focus, her eyes sparkling, her smile like warming sunshine. Welcome. Alf Brummel watched it all happen and could see the dopey, ecstatic look on Sandy's face. They were going to take her. Lucius floated silently through the roof of the administration building and landed on the 3rd floor, folding his wings behind him. He could hear Afar bellowing and boasting in the lounge, and the strong man going through his preliminaries in the conference room. So far, they had no fears or suspicions. The elevator down the hall opened. Yes, it was Hogan the Hound and the praying man, Bush, and 2 people the strong man would not want to see alive, Susan Jacobson and Kevin Weed. Suddenly, there was a flutter of wings and a frantic gasping. A demon shot down the hall toward him, wings rushing, his face filled with terror.
Prince Lucius! Prince Lucius! Treachery! We've been tricked! Hogan and Bush are free! Susan Jacobson is alive! Weed is alive! The saints are gathered and praying!
The demon's ranting ended abruptly in a choked gargle. Lucius pulled his sword out of the demon's belly and swung it in a fiery arc through the ebbing body. The demon dissolved in a puff of red smoke. Outside on the front steps, even as passers-by stared and gawked, the remnant was in prayer. Sandy could see other beautiful beings emerging from the tunnel behind Madeline. Oh, who are these?
New friends, new spirit guides to take you higher and higher.
Alexander Kasich exchanged documents and contracts with the regents and the attorneys. They were discussing all the little loose ends that needed sewing up. It wouldn't take long. The cloud finally closed around the town of Ashton, trapping Tal and his company inside a dark web of evil. Suddenly, Gila whispered, "They're descending." The ceiling of demons, that boiling red and yellow-tinted blanket of black, began to settle downward, closer and closer to the town. Soon Ashton would be buried. Several cars were just turning onto College Way. The first carried County Prosecutor Justin Parker, the second Eldon Strong and State Attorney General Norm Mattingly, the third Al Lemley and 3 federal agents. As they passed through an intersection, a 4th car turned right and joined the procession. The car just happened to carry that true blue accountant, Harvey Cole, with a sizable stack of papers beside him on the seat. Tal now held a golden trumpet in his hand, gripping it tightly, every muscle like tightened wire. "Warriors, ready! Ready!" Marshall, Hank, Susan, and Kevin found the conference room. Marshall signaled the others to wait. Then he opened the door and stepped inside. Kasich sat at the head of the conference table. The regents and the 4 attorneys were seated around it. The demons in the room immediately drew their swords and backed up against the walls. Not only was this the unexpected newspaper man, but he was accompanied by 2 heavenly warriors. The strong man knew this meant trouble, but not that much trouble. He looked at the intruders defiantly, even grinning just a little, and said, "And just who are you?" "The name's Marshall Hogan. It's time we met." College treasurer Eugene Baylor did not like the looks of this at all, and neither did the others. Marshall stepped up to the table. "I want my daughter, Kasich, and I want her unharmed. Let's deal." Kasich and the strong man only laughed.
Deal, you say? You, a mere man, wish to deal with me?
Kasich took a few side glances at his team of lawyers and added,
"Hogan, you have no idea what kind of power you're dealing with."
"Oh, no," said Marshall. "That's where you're wrong. I do know what kind of power I'm dealing with. I've had some really good lessons all through this thing, and some good lectures from my friend here." Marshall opened the door, and in came Hank, and Creone, and Triscoll. The strong man jumped up, his jagged jaws gaping. The demons in the room started trembling and tried to hide behind their swords. Relax, said the lawyer. "They're nothing." But the strong man could feel the presence of the Lord God enter the room with this man. The demon monarch knew who this was. Bush, the praying man. Sandy asked Madeline, "Madeline, where are we going? Why are you hanging on to me so?" Madeline would not answer, but kept pulling Sandy deeper and deeper into the tunnel. Madeline's friends were all around Sandy and did not seem kind or gentle at all. They pushed her, grabbed her, forced her along. The people around the conference table cringed. Kasif rose from his chair, his breath hissing through his teeth, his eyes bulging, his back arched, his fists clenched.
"You cannot defeat me, praying man," the strong man bellowed. "You have no power. I have defeated you."
Marshall opened the door. Susan Jacobson stepped into the room, followed by an angry Kevin Weed and 4 more towering guards with them. The room was getting crowded. "Hello, Alex," said Susan. Kasif's eyes were full of shock and fear.
Who are you? I don't know you. I've never seen you before."
An attorney advised, "Don't say anything, Alex." Hank stepped forward. It was time for battle. "Strong man, I bind you in the name of Jesus." Madeline would not let go. Her hands felt like icy steel as she pulled Sandy along. The tunnel was getting dark and cold. "Madeline, what are you doing? Please let go of me." Madeline would not look back at Sandy. All Sandy could see was that long, flowing blonde hair. "Madeline, please stop." Suddenly, the other spirit guides pressed in all around her, clamping onto her with steely hands. "Please, don't you hear me? Make them stop." Madeline turned her head. Her hide was soot-black and leathery, her eyes huge yellow orbs, her jaws the jaws of a lion, and saliva dribbled off her fangs. A low guttural growl rumbled out of her throat. Sandy screamed. From somewhere in this blackness, this tunnel, this pit of death and deception, she screamed from the depths of her tortured and dying soul. Tal leaped from the earth, exploding in a burst of wings and light. The ground dropped away and the town became a map below him as he shot over Ashton like a comet, piercing the darkness like a fiery arrow, illuminating the whole valley like a prolonged lightning bolt. He climbed, he circled, his wings a blurred flurry of jewels. The trumpet went to his lips and the call went forth like a shock wave to shake the heavens. The strong man fell silent. His big eyes rolled back and forth. What was that? The demons all around him were shaken and looking at him for answers, but he had none. The 8 heavenly warriors drew their swords. That was answer enough. Rafar screamed through Langstrat.
"I am speaking here. Let nothing else draw your attention."
The demons in the room tried to pay attention again, as did the psychics they controlled. For a fraction of a moment, Madeline's grip weakened, but only for a moment. They all knew they had heard something. The demon hordes in the cloud were still descending upon the town when they were dazzled by the sudden appearance of one lone angel tracing brilliant streaks of light across the sky below them. And what was this horribly loud trumpet all about? Were not the heavenly forces already defeated? But then, suddenly, unexpectedly, tiny bursts of light appeared all over the town far below, flashes that did not dissipate, but only grew brighter. The town was disappearing under myriads of blinding lights. Eerie demonic screams began at the center of the cloud and rippled outward. Thunderous shouts began the moment Tal touched down on his hill and raised his blazing sword. "For the saints of God and for the Lamb!" Tal's warriors echoed the cry as the entire landscape erupted in brilliant stars that shot into the sky. The host of heaven. Sandy was tumbling, struggling. The thing called Madeline had both her arms. The other spirits held her legs, her neck, her torso. They were biting her. From somewhere, the mocking voice of the ascended master Rafar said,
"Take her. Destroy her."
Sandy tried to get out of the trance, out of the nightmare, but she couldn't remember how. Then she heard the metallic clinking of chains. The strong man screamed.
You cannot defeat me!
And his demons hoped, or rather wished, it were true. Be quiet and come out of him, Hank ordered. His words threw the demons against the walls and hit the strong man like a left hook. Kasif hissed and spat curses and obscenities at the young minister. The regents around the table were all speechless. Some ducked under the table. The lawyers were trying to calm Kasif down. It's all over, said Susan. I've given them all the right documents. The feds are coming to hang you, and I'm going to tell them everything. The descending cloud of demons and the rising fireball of angels collided in the skies over Ashton, and thunder ripped the sky in response to the terrific clash of the spiritual forces. Swords flashed, a hail of screams and shouts echoed as the host of heaven mowed through the ranks of demons like blurring scythes. Demons began to fall out of the sky like meteors, spinning, smoking, dissolving. Tal, Gilo, and the general streaked toward the college, swords ready, the town a blur beneath them. Find Sandy, Tal ordered. There's no time to spare. I'll take the strong man, said the general. And I, said Tal, will find Rafar. The demons fell upon them like an avalanche, but for Gilo, this was good sport. Tal and the general could hear his uproarious laughter and the thudding sound of his blade as he began weeding the sky of foul spirits. Tal was busy himself. The most horrible warriors were singling him out, and they didn't fall easily. He skidded through the air sideways, slammed one spirit with his sword, went into a blurred spin, and split the next warrior with the force of a saw blade. They vanished in a cloud of red smoke. He slipped through the clutches of several more, then dove and zigzagged toward the college, cutting demons as he went. Brummel was about to have a heart attack. It was so horrible. The others in the room were actually relishing what was happening to Sandy as she trembled and shook in her chair, moaning, screaming, struggling against some unseen assailant. Let me go! Let me go! The hulking, bug-eyed creature sitting in Langstrat's chair was bellowing in a voice that made Brummel's insides quiver.
You are lost, Sandy Hogan. We have you now.
Please, God, please get me out of here, please.
Your mother has fled, and your father is dead. You belong to us.
Enough. Brummel jumped out of his chair and ran to her. Sandy, don't listen to them. It's all a lie. Do you hear me? Sandy could not hear him, but Rafar could. Langstrat jumped up from her chair and screamed at Brummel.
Be silent, you little imp, and step aside. She belongs to me.
Brummel ignored her. Sandy, this monster is lying. Your father is all right.
Hogan is defeated. He is imprisoned.
Brummel looked right into Langstrat's and Rafar's crazed eyes. Hogan and Bush are free. I released them myself. They're free and coming to destroy you. Rafar was stymied for a moment. What had happened to this weak little puppet, Brummel? Then he heard a snicker coming from behind Brummel and saw a familiar face laughing him to scorn.
Lucius.
Tal and Gilo swooped down into the administration building, but Tal stopped short. Wait now, what is this? Lucius drew his sword.
You are not so mighty, Rafar. Your plan has failed, and I am the only true prince of Ashton.
Rafar's sword rang from its sheath and cut through the air with a rush of wind. Lucius stopped the big blade with his own, the force of the blow almost knocking him over. The demons in the room were startled and confused. They let go of their hosts. What was this? Kasif was infuriated and even threw some punches at his lawyers.
You will not tell me what to do. This is my world. I am in charge here. I say what is and what is not.
Susan spoke loud and clear. You, Alexander Kasif, are responsible for the murder of Patricia Kruger and the attempted murder of myself and Mr. Weed here. I have the lists I helped you write up. Lists of people who ended up dead by your order. Murder? Exclaimed one regent. Mr. Kasif, is this true? Don't answer that, said a lawyer. No! Kasif screamed. Several other regents looked at each other. They knew Kasif pretty well by now. They didn't believe him. Langstrat stalked like a lion toward Brummel as many of the psychics came out of their trances to see what in the world had happened.
I will vanquish you for this treachery.
Oliver Young demanded, "What is this? Have you both gone mad?" Brummel, goaded on by the crazed and brazen Lucius, pointed a shaking finger at Langstrat. "You're not going to control me any longer. Your plan will not succeed. I won't let it."
You are doomed, Rafar!
Lucius screamed, dodging the lethal thrusts of Rafar's sword.
Do you hear the battle outside? The host of heaven are everywhere! Treachery! You will pay for your treachery!
Sandy looked into those evil yellow eyes and pleaded, "Madeline, why have you changed?" Madeline cackled and answered,
Do not believe what you see. What is evil? It is but an illusion.
"But you lied to me. You deceived me." Sandy's arms suddenly dropped with a ponderous weight. Chains, glistening, heavy chains hung around her wrists and arms. Cold, bruising links wrapped around her legs, her body, her neck. She could no longer struggle against them. She tried to scream, but her breath was gone. Brummel started speaking for himself. "The State Attorney General, Justin Parker. The feds, they know everything." "What?" some of the psychics cried, jumping out of their seats. They started to ask questions, to panic. Young tried to keep order, but it was useless. Rafar dropped his hold on Langstrat so he could better handle this traitorous upstart Lucius. Langstrat snapped out of her trance to find the room in chaos. "Get back in your seats, everyone! Rafar, please return. Bring order!" But Rafar was busy. Lucius was smaller but quick and determined. The two swords flashed about the room like fireworks, burning and clanging. The whole room was filled with Rafar's swirling wings and chugging breath, and his sword traced fiery red sheets through the air.
Traitor! I'll cut you to pieces.
Langstrat moved towards Brummel with wild eyes. "Traitor, I'll tear you apart." "No," Brummel muttered with widened eyes, his hand going to his side. "Not this time. No more." The demons in the room were dividing into camps. "Prince Lucius speaks the truth. Rafar has led us to our doom." No, it's Lucius who is the enemy's fool."
You are the fools, but we will save ourselves.
More swords flashed into view. Rafar knew he was losing control.
Fools! This is a trick of the enemy. He is trying to divide us.
It only took that one brief moment when Rafar's eyes were on his quarreling demons and not on Lucius' sword. It only took that one moment of terror to push Brummel over the edge. He aimed his police revolver at the wild-eyed Langstrat. Lucius' blade sang through the air and slipped just under Rafar's parrying sword. The tip sliced through Rafar's hide and opened his flank with a gushing wound. Langstrat made just one wrong move, and the bullet thudded into her chest. In the conference room, they all heard the shot. Marshall was out in the hall in an instant. Bernice leaped from her spot on the front steps. Vehicles were arriving. It was Eldon Strawn and Norm Madley, Justin Parker, Al Lemley, 3 FBI agents. And there was Harvey Cole with a stack of ledgers under his arm. Tal had seen enough. He shouted to Gilo, "Go in!" and then soared out of the building to signal for more troops. Smoke and red tar were pouring from Rafar's side, but his rage spelled certain doom for the rebellious Lucius. The light of 1,000 angels beamed in through the windows. They would be in the room in an instant, but that was all the time Rafar needed. He whipped his plank-sized sword in vicious circles over his head. He brought it down in blow after blow upon Lucius, as the defiant demon's little sword parried every blow with a loud clang and a shower of sparks. The roar of angels' wings outside grew louder, louder. The floors and walls rumbled with the sound. Rafar let out a roar and brought the blade straight down. Lucius blocked the blow, but collapsed under his power. The blade came down again, passed through Lucius' head, shoulders, torso. The air filled with boiling red smoke. Lucius was gone. Rafar shouted to Madeline,
"Kill the girl!"
Madeline drew out a horrible, crooked knife. She placed it gently in Sandy's hand. These chains are the chains of life. They are a prison of evil, of the lying mind, of illusion. Free your higher self. Join me. Sean had a knife ready. He placed it in the entranced Sandy's hand. Rafar staggered through a wall just as the light of 1,000,000 suns exploded into the room with a deafening thunder of wings and the war cries of the heavenly host. The demons tried to flee, but were instantly disintegrated by slashing swords. The whole room was one bombastic, brilliant blur, the roar of the wings drowning out every sound but the screams of falling spirits. Kasif leaped from his chair and fell across the table. The regents and lawyers shied away and pressed against the wall. Some headed for the door. Hank, Susan, and Kevin watched from a safe distance. They knew what was happening. The strong man's demons were gone, swept away by an overwhelming flash flood of angels, and now he was face to face with the general. The strong man tried to fight back, screaming, slashing, swinging, but the general just kept coming at him. Sandy still held that knife, but now Gilo burst into the scene.
No more!
He brought his sword down in a wide ribbon of light, cutting through the chains with a series of small explosions. The chains burst outward and away from Sandy, writhing like severed snakes. Gilo's fist clamped around the fleeing Madeline's grisly neck. He jerked her backward, spun her around, and hacked her into vanishing particles. Sandy awoke with a start, fully conscious. A knife fell from her hands. The room was in chaos. People were screaming, fighting, arguing. Several men were wrestling Alf Brummel to the floor. Professor Langstrath was lying on the floor with people huddled over her. There was blood. Sean grabbed her arm. He was trying to comfort her, trying to keep her in the chair. The monster, the deceiver, the liar. Let me go! He wouldn't let go, so she hit him in the face, leaped to her feet, and ran for the door. He went after her. She burst into the hall. "Sandy!" came a voice. Her father. She ran toward him. Sean was right behind her. He had to contain this woman before all control was lost. What? Before him, filling the entire hallway with fiery wings, a terrifying figure appeared, holding a flaming sword right at Sean's heart. Sean braked to a stop, his shoes skidding on the floor. Marshall's fist slammed into Sean's jaw, and after that, he didn't see anything. "Come on, Sandy," Marshall said. "We'll take the stairs." Rafar, somewhere inside that shaking, besieged building, knew he had to get out. He sank to one knee, his hand holding his oozing side, and let his rage grow inside him.
Tal. This was Tal's doing. No, clever captain. You haven't won. Not yet.
Rafar gripped his sword tightly. His wings surged with new power, and he began to rise through the building faster, faster, until he soared through the roof and into the open sky, and found himself face to face with the very captain he had taunted and challenged. All around them, the battle raged. Demons and Rafar's victory fell like smoking, burning rain from the sky. But for one short moment of awe and mutual horror, Tal and Rafar remained frozen. Then Rafar shot sideways. Tal braced himself for a blow, but Rafar was fleeing, dashing across the sky like a bleeding bird, trailing a stream of ooze and vapor. Tal went after him, wings rushing, dashing this way and that through falling demons and charging angels. The demon warlord dove sharply toward the town. He'd be hard to find in that maze of buildings, streets, and alleys. Tal quickened his speed and closed the distance. Rafar was soaring, dashing, looping, zigzagging through falling demons, doubling back, ducking down side streets. But Tal stayed right on his tail and retraced his every turn perfectly. The door of the conference room burst open, and the body of Alexander Kasef rolled across the hallway floor. He was retching and screaming. The general swung his sword at the strongman again and again, weakening him, cutting him more and more frequently as the strongman continued to lose his power.
You will not defeat me!
The strongman still boasted, but the boast was empty and futile. The prayers of the saints could be heard everywhere, and the general could not be defeated. Bernice and her important visitors gathered in the lobby downstairs, and she was just beginning to explain everything when Marshall and Sandy burst out the stairway door.
Get upstairs! Someone's been shot!
Lemley's feds went right into action, pulling their guns. Rafar darted and weaved all over the sky, still trailing a stream of red smoke. With that telltale marker, it was easy to follow him, and Tal kept up the chase unrelentingly. Rafar sped toward a very large warehouse several blocks away and shot through the outside wall at about the 3rd floor. Tal dove into the building after him. This floor was open, with no places to hide. Rafar dove immediately to a lower floor, and Tal followed that trail of smoke. Tal reached the 1st floor and could see the smoke trail veering off sideways and corkscrewing through the distant wall. He shot after it. The wall slapped around him as he passed through. Impaled! A burning edge cut through his side. He spun from the impact. His sword went flying from his hand, and he tumbled to the floor, doubled up with pain. There stood Rafar, bent and wounded, his back against the wall where he had been waiting in ambush, the tip of his ugly sword now draped with part of Tal's tunic. No time to think, no time to feel pain. Tal dove for his fallen sword, grabbed it, and turned. The blade of hell came down upon Tal's sword with a flash of fire. They faced each other, swords held ready. Rafar was grinning.
So now, Captain of the Host, we are alone together and evenly matched. I am opened, and you are opened.
The swords met again, and again. An envelope of darkness began to fill the room. Rafar's creeping, growing evil.
Is the light fading? Perhaps it is your strength we see ebbing away.
Saints of God, where are your prayers? Another blow! Tal's shoulder. He returned with a swipe that caught Rafar under the ribs. The air was filling with darkness, with red vapor and smoke. Several more clashes of the fiery blades, ripping hides, tearing garments, more darkness. Saints, pray! Pray! When the police reached the 3rd floor, they thought Kasef was the gunshot victim. They found out differently when this wild animal threw them off as if they weighed nothing.
You cannot defeat me!
The general slashed at the strongman again, and the strongman screamed again. The swords clashed and sang and flashed with fire.
You cannot defeat me!
Hank stepped forward and gave it one more try. Strongman, I know you can hear me. You are defeated. The shed blood of Jesus has defeated you. Be silent and come out of him and depart from this region. The strong man could take no more of this praying man's rebukes. He wilted. His sword dropped. The general took one swipe with his blade, and the strong man was gone. Kasef collapsed to the floor and lay there as if dead. The lawyers and regents shouted from the conference room, "Don't shoot!" and came out with their hands raised, whether ordered to or not. "In here!" someone shouted from the lounge. The police ran in and found the pitiful wreck that Alf Brummel had become, and the very deceased Julene Langstratt. Rafar's sword took off a corner of Tal's wing. Tal kept darting and flitting, dodging and swinging, and he clipped Rafar's shoulder and thigh. "The Lord has defeated you!" Tal shouted.
Where is the Lord? I see him not.
Tal screamed in pain. His left hand hung useless. "Lord God," he cried, "his name is Rafar. Tell them!" The remnant were watching all the excitement and the police dashing in and out of the administration building when Edith Duster sank to her knees, pale and shaking. The saints gathered around. "Should we call an aid car?" No. I know this feeling. The Lord's trying to speak to me. There's still an evil spirit out there doing great mischief. His name is Raphael Raving... Rafar! Tal could only back away from the fearsome onslaught of the demon prince, his one good hand holding his sword up for defense. Rafar kept swinging and slashing, the sparks flying from the blades as they met. Tal's arm sank lower with each blow. "The Lord has defeated you," he cried. Edith Duster was on her feet and ready to shout it to the heavens. "Rafar, you wicked prince of evil, in the name of Jesus, we rebuke you!" Rafar's blade zinged over Tal's head. It missed. "We bind you!" shouted the remnant. The big yellow eyes winced. "We cast you out!" There was a puff of sulfur, and Rafar bent over. Tal leaped to his feet. "We rebuke you, Rafar!" Edith shouted again. Rafar screamed. Tal's blade had torn him open. The angelic sword sang with a new resonance. It cut through the air in fiery arcs, swinging, slashing, cutting, pushing Rafar back. Then, in one rage-empowered smash, the huge red sword sizzled through the air and Tal went tumbling backward like a tossed rag toy. He fell to the floor, stunned, his head spinning, his body drenched in fiery pain. He could not move. His strength was gone. Where was Rafar? Tal tried to turn his head. He strained to see his enemy. Through the vapor and darkness, he could see Rafar's battered frame swaying like a big tree in the wind. The demon did not charge. The sword hung limply, the tip resting on the floor. The breaths were coming in long, slow wheezes, the nostrils spewing out deep red clouds, the hate-filled eyes glowing like rubies. The words gargled through tar and froth.
"But for your praying sake."
The beast swayed forward, let out one last hissing sigh, and rumbled to the floor in a cloud of red. Tal lay quiet, unable to move. But somewhere, the saints were praying. He could feel it. He was healing. What was that? From somewhere, the sweet music found its way to him. It soothed him. Worship, the name of Jesus. He lifted his head and explored the cold concrete room. Rafar, the loathsome prince of Babylon, was gone. The fight was over. And then his heart told him, "You've won. For the saints of God and for the Lamb, you've won." He struggled to his feet and waited for more strength. It came. He drew a deep breath, took hold of his sword, and then his wings, healed and strong, took over, carrying him into the fresh, light-washed sky, looking straight up and seeing no darkness, no oppression, no clouds. What he did see was light. Light from the heavenly host as they swept the sky clean from one end to the other. He sailed over the little town and back to the college just in time to see the flashing lights of squad cars, aid cars, official cars parked everywhere. "Captain Tal!" came a shout, and Tal dropped to the roof of the college library where Gilo awaited him with a bear hug. "The battle is over!" "Is it?" Yes, in the distance he could see the last fleeing fragments of the cloud, scattering in all directions, swept away by the heavenly forces. Below them he could see the faithful remnant still singing and cheering. Norm Madeley, Justin Parker, and Al Lemley huddled around Bernice and Susan Jacobson. They would have a lot to talk about. 2 medics were carrying the sheet-shrouded body of Julian Langstratt out of the building. And behind them came Alf Brummel, handcuffed and escorted by 2 of his own officers. Behind Brummel came the #1 man himself, Alexander Kasich, in the custody of the federal agents. Hank and Mary were embracing and crying because it was all over. For now. Marshall held Sandy as if he had never held her before. They were catching up on some badly missed love. Then Kate arrived, full of concern, having heard that Marshall was in jail. Now the 3 of them embraced, all shedding tears of joy. There would be much catching up to do. It was time to sound the victory. Tal handed the golden trumpet to Gilo, who corkscrewed into the sky, blowing a long, beautiful signal. The general stood next to Tal as they assessed the situation. "I would say we've left this town in quite a mess." Tal nodded. "The investigation is going to have the college on hold for a while, and then there's all that money to be tracked down. In the meantime, Creone and Triscoe will stay with Bush. Nathan and Armolt will remain with Hogan. Hogan's family will have a good church where they can heal," and Tal suddenly noticed one downcast figure standing alone across the campus. "Hold on." He got the attention of one particular angel. "There she is. Don't let her get away." Bernice felt so alone now, having finally said goodbye to Pat and knowing she didn't really belong to that group of happy people now rejoicing. She felt like talking to God, but having never prayed before, she didn't know what to say. "Dear God," she finally uttered, "I don't know what to do." "You know," said a gentle voice, "it wouldn't hurt to talk to those Christians back there. You've been calling out to God. Maybe that preacher can introduce the 2 of you once and for all. There's something back there you need, girl. And if I were you, I'd find out about it." The general was eager to be gone. "We're needed in Brazil. The revival's going well, but the enemy is concocting a plan against it. You should like that kind of challenge." Tal rose to his feet and drew his sword. Just then, Gilo returned with the trumpet. Tal told him, "Brazil." Gilo laughed and drew his sword also. "Wait," said Tal, looking below. It was Bernice timidly making her way toward the young pastor and his flock. By the quiet surrender in her eyes, Tal could see she was ready. Soon the angels would be rejoicing. He waved his approval to the little curly-haired angel standing with Bernice, and she smiled and waved back, her big brown eyes sparkling. The general asked, "Shall we be going?" Tal looked at Hank Bush. Just a minute. I want to hear it one more time." As they watched, Bernice spoke some quiet but impassioned words to Hank and Mary. They listened, as did the others nearby, and then they put their arms around her and told her about Jesus. Finally, as the saints were gathered and Bernice was surrounded with loving arms, Hank said the words, "Let's pray." And Tal smiled a long smile. "Let's be off." With a burst of brilliant wings and 3 trails of sparkling fire, the warriors shot into the sky, heading south, becoming smaller and smaller, until finally they were gone, leaving the now peaceful town of Ashton in very capable hands.
An abridgment of This Present Darkness, copyright 1986 by Frankie Peretti, published by Crossway Books. This audio version copyright 1990 by Crossway Audio. All rights reserved. Unauthorized reproduction prohibited by law.